Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 119 of Mythos Busters. I am Sean. Joining me on this wonderful Friday night are my bros. We've got Scott. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
Why does it feel like you and I have not podcasted together forever?
I think because that is a true statement. We're like two ships passing in the night.
We've passed so many like lornful, lornful, is that a word? It is a word now. Glance gifts to each other as we do scheduling recently.
It's like our fingertips just barely brush against each other as we figure out which nights we're recording.
Right. Yeah. You know, there have been nights where I was away from my computer, so I couldn't record, but I had my phone so I could listen, and that kind of felt like, you know, I was Patrick Swayze in Ghost during the pottery scene.
Boy.
That's about the equivalent for me. Joining as well tonight is Nick. Hey, Nick.
Hi. So if you're Patrick Swayze, I'm guessing Scott was Demi Moore. Does that mean I was Oprah?
I think you're Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg. That's right. Oprah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've seen Ghost, but yeah. I think you're definitely the medium.
Ugh. Interesting.
Missing tonight is Ian. We'll catch him on the next one. But guys, I am so excited. I missed out last time, and I am just so excited to be back talking about Arkham. I've played a lot of Arkham recently. There's been some very cool happenings in the community. I'm just very, very excited to sit down and talk about Arkham tonight. So, of course, we have a fantastic episode lined up for you guys. We're going to get caught up on some announcements, some reminders about BusterCon, that sort of thing. We'll catch up on some voicemails and the discussion that comes with them. We've got a couple of patron updates, and then tonight our discussion topic, the meat of our episode, if you will, is going to be talking about the return to the path to Carcosa, because we've got a good roll going, so let's just keep walking that path. And then, of course, we'll round it out with some tentacle time. But before we get to any of that, let's do some updates. So first, eagle-eyed Arkham Cards users, I tried to think of a more complicated word there, but you know, we're going to go with users. We'll notice that standalones are starting to filter into the Dissonant Voices palette, the Dissonant Voices offerings. So those are going to continue to filter in. And then once we get caught up on standalones, then we are on to Edge of the Earth. And, you know, no spoilers here. I have completed my first campaign of Edge of the Earth. It's going to be a hell of a thing. MJ did not hold back on the words. You know, no one expected that she would, but anyway, we have been talking about maybe getting a little bit more ambitious, because it's like a one-time project, and maybe we can do some things to coordinate with it like we couldn't do before when it was coming out on a pack by pack basis, but we'll see. And that's going to be out there soon, so pay attention. I mean, we're going to start working on it soon. Let me not promise that it's going to be released soon. That's the thing.
Yeah, if you think Daisy loves tomes, you should see the Edge of the Earth campaign guide. Whew, that is...
It's a thing of beauty,
thick.
But it also makes me produce stomach acid every time I look at it.
It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book.
That's right. And let's see here. Beyond that, we've got just your standard BusterCon reminders. Scott, why don't you lay those on us? You're our BusterCon concierge.
It is May 12th to 15th, 2022, in case you were wondering. It will be at the Game Center, or FFZ as we call it, or FFZ up here in Canada, in Roseville. If you've ever been to Arkham Nights, it's the same place that you've been to a bunch of times. We've got a hotel block booked at the Hilton Doubletree, which is approximately 2 soccer ball kicks away.
Really? Approximately is doing a lot of work, I think.
Yeah, so we actually had one of our listeners Bring a soccer ball. Now, he did say that the wind was blowing against him. I believe it, yeah, brother Zagon. So the ball was an older one, wasn't fully inflated. He's not a soccer player, and the wind was right in his face, and it took him more than 2 kicks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But and also I misremembered the slope of the parking lot. It actually slopes towards the event center,
Mm-hmm.
not away. I thought it sloped towards the hotel.
I mean, once you get to the hotel, yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, this is a lot of talk about a soccer kick. But, anyways, the
Somehow
hotel,
it's our
which
strongest meme of late, which,
the hotel, which is nearby, let's just say, very much in walking distance. $122 a night with the block discount thing. That includes a buffet breakfast, and that's as many people as you can cram in. It's $122 for the room. You can just call them directly. And just mention BusterCon, or there is a link, we'll put it in the show notes, and you can book online there. The link automatically starts you off as booking Thursday night through Saturday night, but you can add on Wednesday and Sunday at the same discounted rate. We will have the Dream Eaters Iron Man at BusterCon 2022.
Woo!
That'll be on Saturday, and we are working on plans for the schedule on what's going to happen on what day and who's hosting what and everything like that. So it's going to be a blast, but I know a lot of people, myself included, like when Arkham Knights gets announced 3 weeks before, I'm like, could you, like, I don't care about the schedule. Could you have just given me a save the date? Like, just, I trust you. Just tell me when to show up and I will be there. So this is us telling you May 12th to 15th. And Sean, you and I will be there on Wednesday.
Oh,
let's
yeah.
be honest.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I'm pretty much just taking the week off.
Mhm.
It's going to be a thing. So, ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know we have to get through like the holiday season and stuff before we really, really get hot and heavy on making BusterCon happen. But as we edge ever closer, I am so excited. I just really, really hope that the world's in a state that it's reasonable for people to travel, because I know that is no longer a foregone conclusion. So everyone cross your fingers.
And toes.
And wear, your masks and do your social distancing. And
Yeah, that's actually going to do more than crossing your fingers.
And wonderful. All right, boys. What Arkham have you been playing lately? Scott?
Oh boy. You know what? I'm going to let Nick go first because I have to look up on ArkhamDB my decks because I have to remember what I played.
He needs to look at his memento tattoos.
Yeah, so I have obviously I'm continuing Achievement Hunter. Episode 19 just came out yesterday. So if you're listening to this on the RSS, it came out, a week or so prior. And that's Ashcan going through Return to Dunwich, and now he is doing so sans Duke. Poor Dookie got sacrificed, but so did literally everybody else. So, that meant that I played on Dimension Unseen, and that scenario, when you straight up fail Blood on the Altar at every turn, Undimensioned Unseen it's a cakewalk. There's multiple turns with nothing to do, and then a brood comes out, and you take care of it in 2 actions, and then there's multiple turns with still nothing to do. I checked the campaign guide, I think 2 or 3 times going, am I doing this right? Should there be a brood in play? So that's fun. So listen to that. It's a lot of just Ashcan taking a tour of the area around Dunwich. But I also have been playing for my own enjoyment as well. I started... Oh, okay, so I invited my friend Brandon over and we played... he chose the Forgotten Age. So we did Return to the Forgotten Age. And I didn't even think about the campaign. I just made a deck for an investigator. And he picked Mandy. He wanted to play Mandy. So I made a Mandy deck for him with his input. Excuse me. And then I was like, I haven't played Roland in a long time. I'm going to make a Roland deck. Well, it turns out Roland is probably the worst investigator to bring through the Forgotten Age. super low sanity, cannot reliably evade at all, ever. It was a very rough time. So
His ability only procs when you actually kill things.
yeah, that's it too.
So Vengeance
yeah.
is out.
So I'm looking at Vengeance and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do. And of course, I'm drawing every Pit Viper that's in the frickin' deck.
As you do.
Yeah, Big Goon asks how big of a Mandy deck. He wanted to go 50, so we went 50.
Oof.
Yeah,
Nick
which I think
Mands.
that also hurt because just lacked the card draw. No, not 65. I did tell him, I'm like, we could make it bigger if you wanted to, but
Wait, how do you get 65? It's too versatile and the
The skill upgrade,
Ancients?
isn't it?
yes,
guidance
ancient,
of the ancients,
ancient knowledge, isn't it?
ancestral knowledge.
And yeah, something like that. The yellow one without a cost. Anyway,
You can go to 80? How do you go to 80?
Scout
I need
wants
to
to
build
know.
this deck now.
yeah.
Anyways, Nick, please continue.
Pump the brakes.
I'll have this.
80. No, all right.
Yeah.
Well, it was the shortest run of the Forgotten Age that I've ever played because we failed the first scenario, but we got Ichtaka on our side. So then we started the next scenario, which was Doom of Etzli. And it turns out that if you doom out during Doom of Etzli with 4 or more Vengeance, you just die. And it's campaign over. It says the investigators are killed, the players lose the campaign. And I was like, what? I missed this every other time I've played the Forgotten Age. So we had the shortest campaign of the Forgotten Age that I've ever played. So that was fun.
Speed run strats.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
just how quickly can I eject myself from this
Like
campaign?
glitched into the wall
Finishing
and
is
fell
winning.
through.
Yeah.
So, but I actually have been playing actual Arkham that hasn't been a train wreck. I've been doing the Dream Eaters because it's been a while since I played that, and I really love that campaign overall. And Dream side, I'm running Lily and Winnie. I'm going with investigators I haven't played before, except for on the Waking side, I have Bob paired with Lola because I wanted to use a lot of the new multi-class cards in Lola and see how that changed. Lily and Winnie are doing phenomenal. They have a little trouble with clues here and there, but overall they're doing really, really well. Lily is a ton of fun. I've landed on probably playing her. Actually, I am going to play her for the Dream Eaters. I'm not, sorry. Yeah, Dream Eaters Iron Man. That's what we're doing. So Lily is a ton of fun. I kind of built her deck in my eyes incorrectly because I was like, oh, I want to proc Dragon Pole for all it's worth because that's such a Lily card. And so I threw a bunch of spell assets in there. But then as I'm upgrading, I'm like, these become useless because I'm upgrading into Guardian. Like, I should have done the spell events, that add your skills to anyway. And
Well,
Winnie
you want those arcane slots full, so
right, but
makes-
all
that
that
makes
for
sense.
Dragon Pole, and I only got Dragon Pole out once, so I pivoted hard off of Dragon Pole. I'm now doing Butterfly
Sure.
Swords, and it's
Yeah, I mean-
pretty great.
she's got good options for upgrading into two-handed weapons. So
Yes, yeah. Lola and Bob have a little bit of startup time on them. It takes them a couple turns to get the ball rolling. And Bob, I realize, has great intellect, but he upgrades into Rogue? Question mark? Who doesn't really utilize that intellect. So my plan was for him to be the Clover, but then I also gave Lola a bunch of Seeker cards to help balance it out. But now it's like Bob's having a hard time maintaining the clue acquisition, like keeping consistent throughout a scenario. So Lola, I then have to hope that I'm getting my yellow cards on Lola when it's such a weird, like that particular combo isn't really working out that great. And I stacked them both full of items and they're both running upgraded backpacks and they're both, just like, I really wanted to capitalize on Bob's ability to get tools in play, specifically tools that Lola could use. But they're struggling. They're doing pretty well here and there, but they're struggling overall.
are they struggling on enemies, or is it just like slow setup?
It comes and goes. Bob doesn't have any damage ramp. So that falls on Lola again. It's weird because it's the last time I played Lola was with Joe Diamond. and Joe was basically doing everything, and Lola was just like, I can pass the occasional treachery. And that was about it. And now I'm doing it, Lola and Bob's like, God, I need help with this one. And Lola's like, oh, okay, sure, I'll step forward with my 3. So yeah, it's still fun. Like, it's still, but I definitely am enjoying the Lola Winnie, or the Lily Winnie side a lot more than the Lola Bob side. Bob is Bob really seems like the 4-player investigator. Like, he's your 4th. You know what I mean? I can't find his strength. I'm failing to see his strength in 2 players or even solo. But
I haven't played him yet, so it's all
Okay.
theoretical, but he seems about as close to like Eldritch Horror Charlie Kane that we're probably going to get. We might actually get Charlie
Maybe.
in the game, but who knows if he's going to do like the I help you do assets, I help you gain things,
Oh,
thing.
yeah, that part of like that Charlie Kane's ability from Eldritch Horror. Yeah, I would
Mhm,
agree.
mhm.
And Charlie's the
Politician.
Politician?
Mhm.
Yep. Charlie
In
Kane for
Eldritch Horror,
president.
he would buy items, but then he could give them to anybody. He didn't control them.
And he had like the best stat for it. Like it was
Yeah.
like if you were playing Eldritch Horror, someone should be playing Charlie. He's
Yeah,
ridiculously good.
But yeah, Bob, like I said, he strikes me as a decent 3rd and a solid 4th. You know what I mean, in a team. But if you and I were playing 2-player, for instance, and you said I'm going to bring Bob, I'd be like, all right, I better bring someone with high int and access to Seeker and also high combat and access to damage ramp. You know what I mean? Because again, he has high int, but he doesn't leverage it. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Unless you're running like newspaper, but he can't get upgraded newspaper. I don't know. It's weird. I haven't figured him out.
Maybe
That's what it feels
Lantern?
like. Yeah, I have Lantern in him right now. And but that still is only 1 clue. You know what I mean? You just get 1 clue off of it.
Oh, he
so.
can't take upgraded scavenging, can he? Okay.
No.
Okay. I want to keep a running tally because mine's super damn high. Mine is embarrassingly high. Of the amount of times that you're talking about one of these new investigators and you talk about leveled up cards in their main class that they can't take, as if they could take them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all of them.
I mean, I've done it so many times.
Sure.
I was
pulling a Norman.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? It was class conflict. Was
Yes.
someone suggested that via the voicemail? I feel like that's pretty good. Class conflict was getting the best of me.
So if anybody who's listening to this has a Bob build that they think runs well solo or 2-player,
Bob the Builder.
send it to me, because I'm really interested. Like I said, I maybe I'm speaking too harshly by saying he's not good in 1 or 2-player. I should probably just say, like I said previously, I haven't figured him out yet. That's what it feels like. So anyway,
Well, Nick.
oh, are you
Funny
are
you
you
should
running
mention
Bob in
that.
2-handed or 2-player?
Solo.
Oh,
Yeah, so I am taking him currently through TFA solo.
okay.
And this, like, I'm playing on standard and just kind of, I don't know. I'm only 2 scenarios in. I got through Doom, and it's just me kind of digging around. But I don't think I've fully figured them out yet. But the thing that keyed me in here is, like, anytime an investigator at your location may reveal to you an item in their hand, like, you can reveal to yourself, right? So he can essentially, he gets 4 actions per turn as long as you're playing out an item.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, so what Survivor? I mean, Survivor has so many awesome items at level 0. So I've got, like, what is it? The old key ring,
Yep.
the axe. I threw in flashlight because I'm like, I need clues. I have axe there for enemy management. God, what else did I have? I brought Stella's gun. I forget what gun that is.
The Derringer,
The Derringer.
18 Derringer.
Yeah,
Because I have that in there as well.
yeah. And then I just packed it also full of neutral skills as well.
Okay.
Especially the manual dexterity, because that can upgrade which is really handy in TFA. And then perception, obviously, unexpected courage. I have 2 guts in there, but I'm thinking of actually just taking them out.
Sure.
Just because I'm like, am I...
He's like a one will, isn't he?
He's 2, but I'm like, I'm not actually passing.
Yeah,
right
getting up
much.
to 4 is not a great
It's
place
not amazing.
to commit deck slots to.
So, yeah, he is like, and Patrick's mentioning this in the chat, like, wouldn't Bob just play like Course at Arkham, play assets, use charges, play asset with fret charges? Yeah, like he is super rudimentary, right? Like he is not flashy to me. His weakness has
Casey,
yet
just play cards and do numbers.
Yeah. Honestly, that's what Solo Bob is feeling like. And again, it's only been 2 scenarios.
Sure.
But he seems to work okay. And I mean, in Solo, like one of my main strategies is just rush the clues, right?
Because he doesn't have the acceleration.
Yeah, like the faster you can finish a game, the less the encounter deck can do to you.
Well,
or attempt to do to you. But yeah, so I'll see how he does in Threads of Fate, because I don't think he doesn't have as good action compression as some other of my favorite solo investigators. But the fact that you can basically play out a free free item each turn, which then can offer you some compression.
Right. So what have you been buying with your experience? What are your upgrades looking like?
I did manual dexterity. I don't have this deck. I built it like IRL.
Right.
And it's in another room. But anyways, manual dexterity, what's the when you have a certain amount of money, it's a lady holding cards and she's putting one down. And
hot
you
streak.
gain 10 resources. Hot streak?
Yeah.
Hot streak, thank you. I put in, did I have investments in there? Pretty sure I did. Lone Wolf for sure.
Okay, so you're going like a big, I'm not even doing big money build for him. Like I
Rags
grabbed
to riches, Bob.
Yeah. Right.
But those are my only money things, right? Like
those are good ones.
Right, but like 5 cards. Oh, I think I have an emergency cash in there too.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure.
Because I grabbed Janae Beauregard just because she's phenomenal and anybody who can get her. And she buffs his 2 highest skills, int and agility. And I also grabbed Aeon Chart because it's an item that saves him actions, so you can get that extra investigate or whatever in there. And like those 2 have really helped his consistency. But I don't know. I didn't even think about doing like, just stack the cash, And
I'm not even doing stack the cash. I'm just doing that so I make sure I get value out of his extra action each turn, hopefully, with like playing an item. And then I am ruthless with just spending through charges of things, right? Because I don't care, right? Like I'm just gonna be playing more every turn to get free action. And his weakness, greed, I think it is. Like I just don't want to be hit by that too hard.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
fair enough.
Okay.
And to be fair, I did, when I drew my basic weakness, I did reject my own fate because I got an offer you can't refuse, which is the pay money one. And I was like, okay, for a first, like I will play another campaign with Bob. Just to see how it goes. I'm like, okay,
be rough.
Okay,
that's so thematic, though. That is the thematic home run weakness for Bob.
I know, and I was like, not this time. Like, not my first time. Okay, like just.
I want to enjoy this one.
I promise I will loop back. You know what? Like, I'll even play the same deck, same campaign with that basic weakness the second time.
But that's so perfect though, because it's like when you get overzealous with Zoe or something, you're just like, oh, this fits.
Yeah, it fit. I'm just like, this is not going to be a good a first time experience. Like I want to learn how Bob works, and this is not the way to do it, right? Like this is like when when Calvin draws the stubborn detective, right? Like just like well,
I'll concede this campaign. Let's start a new one identical to it.
Luke and narcolepsy, because he's the dreamer. Right?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
He's always falling asleep
Thematically
in Solo.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, well, you can't.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sean, what's
and
your
I've been-
Arkham look like?
I have been very fortunate in that Justin and I basically took the entire summer off from playing Arkham together, and we've made up for it. In the
Yeah,
past...
that's fortunate.
Well, no, but we made up for it in the past couple weeks.
Mm.
So the Forgotten Age. Apparently, we're all of one mind right now because the Forgotten Age was the one campaign that he hadn't played yet because we kind of skipped ahead so he could play current stuff when he started collecting the game, and we were at around TCU at the time, so we never got back around to TFA. So we finally cracked that. Had a really good time. I played Lily, and tried to upgrade into a lot of things that I couldn't actually upgrade into. So many times, guys. It's embarrassing. I'm glad Justin's not here to tell on me. Had a really good time. Justin played Jack, who is really good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more about Jack at a certain point, I'm sure. So I had a really good time. Lily is fun. I have to say, and I talked about this in Discord a little bit. So my initial read of Lily was cool that she gets, these disciplines and, depending on which one you start with and how you upgrade, she's got different options, and her ability is having those disciplines. She doesn't have an ability herself effectively. My initial read of those disciplines were like, okay, this is really cool. And, you'll flip them back. And, when you use them, you'll just flip them back in a turn or two. And it'll just happen. Real life experience has taught me that flipping those suckers back is a deliberate effort in most cases. You will run the occasional lucky turn where you just need to move and play a card, and that'll clear the one where you don't take any skill tests that turn if you didn't draw something in Mythos. You'll get lucky sometimes and just have a turn where you don't deal with an enemy. But turns where you don't take any horror or damage, and turns where you end the turn with 0 cards in your hand, you have to almost orchestrate those things. So I have found... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, which one did you start with?
This build, I wanted to play her like a mystic, so I started with the willpower one.
That's what I did too.
Yeah. And I liked the idea that you could kind of net heal based on how the game was going, either damage or horror. So I put in a few cards that either leverage taking attacks or spending damage or health or sanity. And it went okay. I found that my life got a lot better when I took the agility one, because this is TFA, so it makes sense. I took the agility one and leaned more into using her normal stats, and her arcane slots were really just for support stuff.
Yeah.
I had a much better time with it.
That's the build I'm doing with her. Is I started with will, and then the next one I took was agility.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing Dream Eater, so I'm not going to get another one before she's done with the campaign. So,
that's sad.
I've been happy. Well, I mean, I got those quick, you know what I mean? But there's only 4 scenarios, so. But I've been happy with those two. Very happy, actually. I haven't had as big of an... I've had times where I've drawn the Elder Sign and they're both still unbroken, and I'm like, well, shit. You know what I mean?
Well, that happens too.
Yeah, I haven't had a big issue unbreaking them. But I will agree that the damage and horror one, that one you're the agility one where it's end without an enemy, you can't be in the same
enemy at any time.
Enemy. Yeah, that one's a little tricky, excuse me. So
and if you get around to the intellect one, that's the one that took me it took me half a game to realize how it actually worked, where at any time you can't have 2 cards in your hand. Not more than 2, which is how I initially read it. You can't have 2 cards in your hand, which means that because in upkeep you draw a card, the previous turn you would have had to empty your hand.
0, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
I don't think she needs the intellect, so I don't think I'm going to go for that one.
I have to say, I almost never made much use of the intellect boost, but that ability to just draw 5 or up to 5 cards, just draw up to 5, right? This is how that one works.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, and it's usually worth just doing it. And then if you just have that that discipline broken for the rest of the game, it's usually okay. And then so then what happened? And no one hate on us, so I'm self-reporting here.
No.
But when Edge of the Earth was announced, or at least people it started to filter out that the campaign box was hitting Canada. We decided that we wanted to hop in on that, and it would be okay. First of all, selfishly, first and foremost, I'll just own this. Selfishly, I just wanted it, and I wanted it as quickly as I could get it. But on
Nobody
top
faults
of that,
you for that.
well, on top of that, it was like, okay, well, we don't know when it's going to show up in the rest of North America. If it's a long time, wouldn't it be really cool if we had Dissonant Voices like ready to drop when the street date happens? So we're like, all right, let's import it. So as that was coming in, Justin and I were on like threads of fate. So we're like, all right, well, we have to expedite this campaign. So we blitzed it out in 2 or 3 sessions, and then started in on Edge of the Earth. So that's why I say that I've completed my first playthrough of Edge of the Earth. We imported it. We managed to orchestrate. It was just gaming magic. Both Justin and I didn't take like a day off, but we both got ourselves in a position where working remotely, we could both just kind of like take a day answering emails when we needed to.
Sure.
So he came over and we did that, and we just drank coffee and played Arkham for almost 12 hours. It was basically an Iron Man. We didn't end up finishing it in one go, but it was a really good time. And not anything spoilery here because this is in the preview article. It's a scenario of variable length, right? Or sorry, it's a campaign of variable length. Yes. And we missed 3 scenarios that we could have otherwise played if we had done things differently. Yeah, really, really positive on the campaign coming out of the first one. Super excited to dive in and kind of learn how it's actually working. I'm very, very excited about it. But he played Jack again, and I have to say, we were talking about this in our mod chat. First of all, Jack's insane. If you haven't played him yet, do it, or at least see him be played. Because
it'll be a blur.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
No, it'll be a blur. See, watching him be played, it'll be a blur.
It will. You'll barely. You won't believe your eyes. Because Justin played Jack in TFA, and then he was also like, well, I don't want to build a new deck. I just want to dive into this. So he played Jack in Edge of the Earth as well. And I played just kind of a dumb plotting killer with some clue tech, for 2-player, in both campaigns. And he carried our asses with clues and just being able to like zip around the map and hit, story-based tests that just require you to hit skill tests and that sort of thing. Just so good. And it was Justin that pointed out that there's a new Willem Dafoe movie, and I don't know what it is. I'm gonna zoom back up to the. Is it?
Oh God!
Nightmare Alley.
Yeah.
And he posted. I'm gonna post this in the live Discord chat here, just so those of you who are with us can see what I'm talking about. He posted this picture, and was like, "Wow, I guess Jack is just Willem Dafoe." And I'm not one to argue because yes. And also it kind of makes sense. So from now on, for me at least, Jack is just going to be the Green Goblin because, he's zippy.
He's gobbling up the clues.
He's gobbling up.
Oh
the
my
clues.
God!
Yeah, yes, he's doing that.
And he's got rogue access, so he's the Green Goblin.
And if you think about it, with his seeker access, he's something of a scientist himself.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It's a very shrewd analysis you laid down on us there, Sean.
Yes, I love this. So Jack is the Green Goblin. He's amazing. He's great. He's so zippy. In these campaigns like TFA and Edge, where I've now seen him played, he can just burst around the map and get shit done on for no reason at all, and then for good reasons too.
I know Big Kahuna mentioned up in chat he wants to run a 4-player campaign with Jack, Ursula, Trish, and Finn. And I'm kind of just interested in doing Jack and Ursula. Or Monterey and Ursula. Because I feel like that would just be...
It's like Sonic and
Knuckles. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Which one?
Wait. Knuckles? Tails?
Tails. I mean, I know, like, mechanically Knuckles is not slower, but I always kind of imagine Knuckles being, like, the burlier, beefier one.
I think in Sonic canon, Knuckles is slower than Tails and Sonic.
So, like, would Rita be Tails? Because she's red and kind of doing a similar thing. And she's spiky. She can like ping things for. All right, we're taking this too far. Anyway, Jack's great. Had a really good time. Super positive in my first playthrough of Edge of the Earth. Very excited for everyone to get a hold of it. And boy, Iron Man for that campaign is going to be it's going to be a head scratcher, guys. It's going to be a head scratcher because there's a lot about that campaign that you can plan for, but you don't have any control over at all. It's great.
I cannot wait.
All right. Well, wait, Scott, you haven't mentioned what you've played recently. Or was your Bob story? You had your Bob story.
Well, yeah, and then I've also been tinkering around with a match to my Ursula Dubs deck, and I'm trying to get Speedy, Woke, Agile, Gloria, and
whoa,
that's swag.
What?
And I'm trying to solo Woke, Agile, Gloria. I don't know. I'm basically so Dubs originally was built for the Dream side of the Dream Eaters.
Sifting Woke, Agile, Gloria.
Sure. Oh, yeah. And so I was thinking a Gloria deck would do really well on the Waking side. And like in a solo. So I almost want to have like, hey, are you going to Dream Eater solo? Here's the 2 best decks kind of thing. But yeah, so I've been tinkering around with that. And then Casey and I had I went back to Wendy. I forget what we were doing. I think we were just doing some standalones. And nothing crazy. I believe Casey, I see him in chat. But we were playing stuff with Bless and Ancient Covenant and Wendy and her ability to redraw stuff. And yeah.
Seems fun.
I don't know.
Wendy's one of those investigators that I continually am like, I really need to like revisit Wendy. And then I get about 2/3 of the way into a deck build and get tired. And then I don't play Wendy. I will eventually. I will get to her eventually. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, and it was Stuff the Bag Wendy. I think Casey called it. And I went like super low curve.
Sure.
And there are only 9 cards in my deck that cost more than 1.
And so in Survivor, that's easy to do, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and yeah, so
well, fun.
It's working pretty well. I mean, Wendy is just still so good. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like core set, just amazing. Still dominating.
You're telling me that like fundamentally warping the odds of the chaos bag is powerful?
Yeah.
No.
Yes. Big Kahuna. No, not Dark Horse actually, because I've been using the money on Mariner's Compass, and been using Madame Lebranche. So, is there some way you can get me a resource, Wendy? Yeah, so. Anyways, super fun. Still loving Wendy. Love my survivors. You know, the usual.
I'm sorry, the exact way that Casey quoted that is like, yep, I understand.
Yeah.
I've played across builds like that, and it's cute and annoying at the same time.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I will throw out there too, just because we were mentioning Wendy. Someone linked me a 94 card legal Wendy. Mandy deck.
Oh, okay.
Mandy deck.
Mandy.
Oh, Mandy. Okay.
How do you get to
including
90?
94 even.
Yeah, so there is like that includes weaknesses and permanents and all that stuff, but it's double versatile. Let's see. forced learning, ancestral knowledge. Yeah, it just seems like just ridiculous. So, and then one of the comments on the deck is, so what's your mulligan strategy? On 94 cards.
Fantastic.
Just
yeah,
80 asset.
cards
That's
in
all
deck.
I'm looking for is one asset.
Yeah, it's 80 cards in deck.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Wonderful. All right, well, let's move it on. We've got some voicemails to catch up on because I've missed a couple episodes and was like lazy and unprepared the last episode I was on. So we're behind. Let's get caught up. So first, Nick, we've got a voicemail that is specifically a response to an older Achievement Hunter episode that you posted. So
Am I gonna have to read you the campaign?
No, it goes in the other direction. Shh. Here we go.
Hi, Nick. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Hi, Nick, and the whole Mythos Busters team. My name is Scott. I do really enjoy the podcast, actually. But I am specifically calling you today because I was going to send an email, but I got real jazzed. I just heard the latest Achievement Hunter, Ashcan Peak, on Return to the Essex County Express. And, Nick, I don't know if you know, you got an achievement. All aboard, all aboard. In Return to the Dunwich Legacy is something to do with don't let any helpless passengers leave play. You put one into play, I don't think it left play. Congratulations! Etc. Well, this has been very energetic. Love what you do, folks. Drawn to the flame forever!
Right at the end.
Yes.
Oh,
So
just buried
Scott and I talked about this in the interim between the voicemail and now. So I am aware of it. I've talked about it on more recent Achievement Hunter episodes.
Wait,
but
this Scott or that Scott?
the Scott that left the voicemail.
Okay.
And so yes, he is correct. I got a sneaky extra achievement in my Essex County Express run, so that was nice.
Woo!
And I love the energy, Scott. That's great.
Fantastic. All right. Next we have Patrick, who's got a new deck archetype for us.
Ooh.
Curse Lola.
Hi, Mythos Busters. It's Patrick calling in with a new deck idea using some of the new Investigator cards, Edge of the Earth Investigator cards. So you take Bob Jenkins and all of the resource cards and rogue exceptional cards with clocks on them. The idea is you help your team by doing salesman things and giving everyone actions to futz around with. I plan to call this revolutionary deck archetype, the Click Economy. Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for the podcast. Bye.
Wow, shots fired in Sean's direction.
I am more insulted that he didn't call it the clock economy.
Oof. Oof.
But you know, either way, it sounds fun. I've run the lower level red clock, in a standalone Ursula deck that I built recently, and those are pretty fun. The clocks are cool. I'm positive on them, so you know I might try this out.
This makes me think of a joke that like all of 8 people are gonna get, but in Magic, if you're running like, calm down. Like if you're running all bears, it's like called Bear Tribal, right? Like a Bear Tribal deck.
God,
but
where's
some
Brian?
people, yeah, for some reason, some people like basing it off of art. So some people make like flute tribal, so all the art pieces have to have someone playing the flute in it. So this is just like clock tribal, essentially.
Bear Force 1.
I thought about red clock for my Bob deck, but I ended up going with I picked up Borrowed Time because I haven't played that one in a long time, so we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Bob's fun. I don't think I've even scratched the surface, honestly. I think, Nick, I know that you... I was being the counter voice, I guess, or just like lending my solo stuff, but I think you are right. I think Bob is going to excel the most in multiplayer.
I think there's more room for him to play to his strengths. You know what I mean? Rather than making sure he has Keys out and a Derringer out and making sure that he's set up. He he can really play into more of the team item distribution. It's kind of a shame he can't get Attorney Urkel.
No doubt. Versatile.
Yeah. Versatile. There it is.
No. Oh yeah, he is level 0.
Versatile underworld contacts. Problem
Yes.
solved. Wait, underworld support? What's underworld contacts?
Underworld support, I think.
Is that a pod in Star Wars, underworld contacts?
When we get so many investigator
Yes, I
cards
think
this
so.
quickly together, I lose track of all.
Oh, I know, dude.
Yeah.
I'm normally pretty good at,
Yeah.
at naming cards, but I am struggle bussing right now.
Struggle
I am
busting.
not good at naming cards. I was like, you know that great card that gets you 10 resources with the woman holding her cards and putting one down?
You can describe
I can
everything
describe-
in detail but the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. Hey man, a card by any other name would be just as sweet. So
Huh.
All right. Well, there's your Shakespeare for the night.
Yep.
All right. Last voicemail for the night is Squid Beer, and I'm actually very interested to discuss this one with you guys.
Hey, Busters. Squid Beer on Discord here. I just had a question for you guys regarding larger player groups. I've got the unfortunate fortune of having a regular game group of 5, including myself, which, as you know, is not enough for a party game, too many for an ideal Arkham experience. So after trying and failing to get a couple in the group to control one investigator as a team, my solution's been to take on the de facto DM role, reading text, managing board state, playing music at specific triggers, flinging frozen calamari at people, that kind of thing. It works, but I gotta admit, it mildly chaps my ass, because, man, I'd love to play too. So I'm curious if you guys have been in this situation before and what your solution was. Do you generally just roll with 5 investigators and deal with the pile of clues and crazy enemy health that comes up? Do you only play epic multiplayer? Do you or drinking drugs? My body slot is open to anything. Anyways, love the pod, and I'm looking forward to Scott becoming FIFA sanctioned. See you later.
Well, the good news is there's a whole campaign that you can play with 5 players, and that's the Dream Eaters. You can do 2 people on one side, 3 on the other.
There you go.
And you could actually play it in what I would consider an enviable state, where they can experience it the first time, in that sort of fractured campaign pair-up sort of thing.
The way ostensibly it seems to have been designed.
Right. The quote-unquote intended way or whatever. But I would imagine it's a nightmare to play, especially with people who aren't, Arkham's not their primary game. I would imagine it would be a nightmare to play 5-player or more with that kind of group. I would imagine the speed is just glacial. But that's also me assuming. I don't know who the players are and everything. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're fast and whatever, but 4-player even, like Iron Man, there are times where we slow to a crawl and we bleed Arkham, so
yeah. I think Casey says in the chat, I think he's right. I think you bite the bullet and you rotate your 3s and your 2s.
Yeah.
You break down to a 3-player and 2-player group. And it also sucks, right? Because it's you're splitting up your group, which is not ideal. But then again, you can do Dream Eaters. But I mean, that's only 4 game nights, right? Or less if you do more than one scenario a night. And then also, if you are doing it that way, I mean, the 3-player group is going to take longer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think the only way to solve it is you break into 2, 2, and 1, and you play Labs of Lunacy every single time you show up. And you just rotate who's in what section. So
Yeah. Have either of you been in this position before?
Well, I mean, Sean, our game group, we routinely have 5.
Mm-hmm.
But we also luck out because one of them just staunchly refuses to play Arkham. So even with 5 of us there, we can
nailed it.
We'll get a 4-player game.
It's so weird because that same person has done a 2-part Iron Man with me before. So it's right. Super contextual and weird.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I've been in that before.
Plot twist, it's Sean. No.
Yeah, it's definitely me. I can't stand Arkham. Who knew? I've done that before, aside from our game group, where just 4 people showed up and I wanted to hand everyone a deck, so I did the like kind of GM thing. It's fine for a night or two, but I can't imagine doing it on an extended basis, because like I definitely just want to play. I'm way too participatory. My next best thought after splitting into 2 and 3 person groups is tag. Like maybe give everyone a little bit of an opportunity to play with a couple different investigators and just kind of like tag in and tag out between turns. And yet a third option is, pressure the couple into having a kid intensely, and then one of them will have their hands full inevitably, and then the problem will sort itself out.
Life tips with Sean.
I will say though that when Squid Beer said that they tried to get the couple to play the same investigator and it didn't stick, like
Oof.
I'm on the couple's side in this one. Like if I sat down to play a game and my wife was there and they're like, well, it only goes up to 4, so you and your wife should probably play the same character, I'd be like, no, that's fine. She can play, I'll watch, or like it's I don't think it would be fun even learning a new game to like share a hand of cards and that sort of thing. I don't like sharing. I just want it all to myself. So
yeah, that is a very like relationship specific ask, probably.
Yeah.
I know some couples who could live, and I know some couples where it would probably be the end of their marriage. So
when I need to draw cards, I book myself.
There it is.
All right.
I honestly think like if none of these solutions work, like is 5 that bad? Does it break the game? Like I could see like 8 being obtuse, but
I don't know.
Maybe
like I said, I don't think it's gonna break the game. I just think it's gonna slow everything down.
Yeah.
So
You could make it work. There are some scenarios that very specifically have like 4 things for the 4 players, and you kind of have to, tape it together at that point. But beyond that, it would probably scale fine.
Yeah. Can't play the prologue to TCU.
Yeah.
But that might be a good thing.
All right. Well, let's move it on. We're really long on our preamble today. Nick, why don't you give us a real quick patron rundown?
Yeah, we're going to go through it real quick because we're at an hour already. So patron thanks to our board members, Chris B, Chris H, Chris M, the conglomeration of Chris's, Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Patrick, Abilio, Jesse, Chad, and Robert. Thank you so much. All of you. We really appreciate that support that you go to. But also, special shout out to our random patron this week, Paris. Oh, why did I agree to do the patron stuff? Paris Capsuros. Thank you, Scott. Paris Capsuros.
I think
you're a random shout out. Well, that's what it is now. Reminder about mythosmerch.com. Also, if you've purchased or worn any of the swag we offer, please send us pictures or share pictures on your socials or on Discord, because we love to see you guys repping that swag out in the wild. So let's see that. Those are always awesome to see.
If nothing else, it makes us warm in our tummy.
Exactly.
Collectively.
Yep. in the Mythos Busters singular tummy. Patron goals. We're still working on the goals that we've unlocked so far, surprising nobody. We had a nice big burst of unlocking them kind of one after the other, and we're still trying to make up that
our hand is still on the e-brake.
Yeah. BusterCon is obviously coming, like we talked about earlier. We've mentioned before how we're working on another custom scenario. You can check out episode 97, Attached Giblets, for further details on that one,
which we've made big strides on.
Yes. Yep. We will be able to test it as a group of 4 very soon, which is exciting.
This is so weird to be able to talk about it when it's in process. We were so close to the best with Consternation.
It is weird. Like last time I talked about it, I mentioned how there's like a couple enemy designs I'm really excited for and stuff like that. I don't want to go into specifics on it, but it is nice to be able to say we are working on it. We've made some progress. This is kind of what we're looking at now. So it is fun to be able to talk about that.
Well, and the first one was a surprise, right?
Yes.
Like this one is a goal. It's like, we are making a second scenario. Like the first one was just left field.
Right.
Hi, Gen Con, here you go.
Yeah. Bet y'all didn't think we'd actually do it.
Right.
Yeah. I still love the story, Sean, you said of like person who came up and said, "So, what do we get? A couple like poker chips?" And you're like, "No, new scenario," and they like squealed with joy and surprise. Yeah,
it was satisfying.
And then we have 2 job titles to hand out real quick. 2 new people made it through the hiring process and orientation. So, Scott, do you want to do the first one?
I do. So our first one is Dude in Progress. He is our deck upgrade manager, and this is very specific. It's both card decks and the actual deck at the Mythos Busters Retreat Cottage, because that thing it's fallen apart.
Oh boy.
So
it's not up
he
to
needs
code.
to manage. Sure, that's a nice way of putting it. There is
Will it be cedar
approximately 112 OSHA violations, give or take. So, I mean, Dude in Progress, you're going to help everyone in the office with their deck upgrades. And then also on the weekend, we need you to head out to the cottage and upgrade that deck as well. You get a per diem of $8. Spend it wisely.
I love how Mythos Busters Incorporated owns all these dilapidated properties.
I thought our office building's really nice. It's just we don't furnish it with... No, it's leaking and everything. You're right.
And Sean, do you want to read the second one?
Sure. Hand selected by me, of course. Sean Gibbons is going to be the CEO or Chief Officer Body Double. Just in case I get iced, we definitely have to have a Sean to step in so that the transition will be seamless. Steamless? Why would it be steamless?
Ooh.
Is it cold?
I'd be worried if there was steam.
Anyway, seamless.
We could also use him if you're heading to Coruscant and you need a body double to stand in on the main shuttle.
Wow, that's a Star Wars reference I
yeah.
did not see coming tonight.
Whew.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And also, I just have to point out that Sean spells his name the right way. And I'm sorry for the partial docs, but I feel like credit was due where it's due. Well, welcome,
right.
guys. Thank you for your support.
Mhm.
Enjoy your office seats.
Seats, boxes. Yeah.
They just get chairs. They don't get anything else. So
That's right.
Yeah.
No desk.
Your desk is just a second chair facing you.
But someone will be occupying that chair very shortly. So
You
God.
put your computer on each other's laps.
Okay. And then news real quick. We'll just power through this. Dunwich is repackaged, but it's the same old Dunwich. So
Yep.
cool.
Confirmed on
I
the
believe-
article that there's nothing new for people who already own the old version of the cycle. So
Including no alt arts, no, like, it is just...
Yeah, they pulled out all the stops on this.
if
I'm
you
glad.
own Dunwich. But it's one of the new boxes with, like, storage, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
It
Like
feels
the
like
core?
all of the, I mean, probably. I have to assume it's going to be packaged the same way as Edge of the Earth was.
It is. Yep. There's a investigator and a campaign expansion. I'm looking at the picture right now.
Mm-hmm.
I will say,
Casey,
as someone who told
sorry.
themselves they were not going to buy the revised core because they didn't need it, and then like a week after it released, bought the revised core, I'm glad that there's going to be no like niggling little voices in the back of my head being like, well, but there's alt arts that you don't own.
I mean, Casey does bring up, the golden pocket watch may be fixed, maybe printed correctly.
Oh boy. Wait,
Because they do.
what's wrong with
FFG has. Not the golden pocket watch. I think he's thinking of
Lucky Dice.
Yeah,
I think that's the
know
only
Lucky Dice.
errata, isn't it? Is Lucky Dice?
yeah. Anyways, is it printed as a fast, not a response?
Oh, it should be a reaction. Got it. Got
Okay.
it.
But FFG typically does when they reprint, when it goes to like the next printing or the next printing, even like reprinting packs like for Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Any errata that have gone through where it's like literally fixing the cards, not taboo. Let's be clear on that. Errata, they are printed correctly in the following runs. So
Cool. Are they?
which means I'm probably not gonna get the Dunwich box.
No.
But no, I'm not gonna do it.
I mean, if you own, like, if you bought the original cycle and you own Return, I don't see why you would need anything else. Everything fits in Return with like some flop
Yeah.
space
Yeah,
to spare.
there's no room for this in your Return 2 box. So
Right.
That's true.
That's right.
But what if I want to build all of Dunwich all at the same? No.
All right.
Then you need to buy like 6 of these.
All right. Well, speaking of returns, let's move on to our discussion topic tonight. I was very sad that I missed Return to Dunwich, but it was fun to hear you guys talk about it, and yeah, I think you hit all the main points I would have. But I'm super excited to talk about Return to Carcosa. Before we dive into the campaign, let's talk some player cards. Yeah. Click the link. There it is.
Those cards.
Yeah.
Let me totally grab my cards from my box that I have so well organized and.
Do you organize them by release?
No.
Oh.
No,
I was like, good
don't.
God, what kind of a monster are you?
Okay, look. Nick, since you said that, I have to say it real quick. I love and hate being in our Bling Your Game channel and listening to the different ways that people sort their stuff, because I cannot stop myself from being way more judgmental than I'm used to being over something that has no effect on the way I play the game.
Like the funny thing is there's always like 3 or 4 steps. It's always like this order of classes, alphabetical, this order, like everybody, there's always, it's nested conditions. And so when someone is listing off like you're waiting for the one that's gonna like, nope, I don't do that. Oh, yep, no, I don't do
It's gonna cross your boundary and just be like, oh God, why?
You were so close.
Like, first of all, I don't understand how people do binders. Like, if you're only playing and constructing decks once in a while, okay. But if you're playing a lot and futzing around with decks and swapping cards in and out, I don't understand how people do binders. I couldn't do it.
And do they do sleeves? Do they play unsleeved?
No, I think they generally, like, you pull all the cards and then you sleeve it as a deck.
Okay.
Zeers says that they have them sleeved in the binder. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Wow.
There's some binders.
Like wide
They're
pockets.
binder, yeah.
Well, I use Dragon Shields, and these things are meaty sleeves. They're big, so
McDog also sleeves in binders, but I know he's mentioned before that he uses like when you can double sleeve things, he uses like the inner sleeve only.
Oh, so it's real slim.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, like so they're super super tight. Like they basically fit perfect fits. That's what they're called.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Still not going to do binders, but
it's this weird interaction I have with the community. Normally I'm like really accepting and just like whatever, but when we start talking about storage solutions, I get oddly judgy. And
finger hovers over the ban button. Or what?
Well, you'd never know because they can't talk anymore, could you?
right.
All right. Anyway, let's dive into the player cards for the Return to Carcosa. Nick, why don't you take the first shot here?
Sure. Our first card is the level 2 32 Colt. It is it has a resource cost of 2. It is a guardian asset. It has 2 combat icons, item, weapon, firearm trait. It takes up a hand slot. Game text reads, uses 6 ammo. Spend 1 ammo. Fight. You deal +1 damage for this attack. And then Squiggly Boy, spend 1 resource. Return 32 Colt to your hand. I know Sean has played with this. At least I think you have. I have not. But I love its design. I love that they just slap the return it to hand on there. That's pretty great. Yeah.
I actually I have my Gunslinger Mark deck, which is where I've played with this before. I have it assembled now, and it's sitting across from my Lola. I'm trying Lola again deck for my next Edge of the Earth campaign. It works really well in Mark or in someone that you can get your base combat up really high. You're taking down the cost, that ability to just reload, just pull it back to your hand, play it back down with 6 more shots. Like, if you can get your stat to where it needs to be, this is a good daily driver weapon. Like, you don't need to find any other ones. You just keep playing this one back down. I also really, really, really hope we see more player cards that give us things to do with ammo that aren't fighting. Because things like Warning Shot or the next card we're going to talk about are pretty cool. I want more effects like that let you spend your ammo for some cool effect that's worth it. And this card is so good for those because like 2 resources for 6 ammo, and you're still getting a damage boost per action. Like, it's so juicy when you make it work.
I would
love
say
this
that
card.
this and maybe Jenny's 45s are really the only weapons that are good for those cards. I think I have yet to run a build that relies on guns and then go like, yeah, I can spare some ammo for warning shot or whatever. But the fact that this one, that it's self-reloading, like that goes miles towards making those other cards work. So
Give me an event that lets you spend an ammo to get rid of a locked door, or some shit like that. Like, I don't know. It would be very cool space for the game to explore. I really love things like Torrent of Power. So, if we see more things like that, then this card only gets better.
Yep.
I'm just gonna be the voice of dissension here and say, I think it's a good card, but I find myself rarely using it because I feel like
I'm the same.
I could spend the XP somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I find like it's so low on my list of upgrades because I find that the original is just fine because it does what it's supposed to do, right? Shoots and does damage. And if I have 2 of them in my deck and I'm playing someone like Mark, I'm drawing so many cards, I'm just going to see the other cold.
Sure.
And I'm probably not just playing the 2 colds. I'm probably playing other weapons too. You know what I mean? Like, so I find I always have enough ammunition. So unless I was going to try to capitalize on those cards that you spend extra ammo for, I like, I'm not saying it's a bad card because it's not. It's a good card. I just find its priority in my upgrade path is usually pretty low.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing I should add, like this card has gone in like 3 decks that I've made. This is not going everywhere.
Yeah,
I don't want to come off like I have that kind of energy. But the new quick draw holster makes this one pretty interesting. Which is why I decided to revisit this, because my Mark deck that I've built now also uses the Thompson, and he's going to upgrade into 2-handed weapons, but then is going to use this with the quick draw holster for some extra pings of damage. So
right,
should be interesting.
Cool.
Scott, you want to read Rat Lead? I mean, Eat Lead?
Rat Lead. So Eat Lead is a level 0 Guardian event that costs 1, has a combat and agility icons. Tactic traded, so Mark can take it. Does he do tactics? Anyways, it's a Guardian, so
yeah.
That's the joke. Fast. When you activate the fight ability on a firearm asset, spend 1 additional ammo token from that asset. When you reveal chaos tokens for this attack, reveal 1 additional chaos token. Choose one and resolve and ignore the other. So this is different from the original in that it costs 1. It's 0 XP instead of 2. And the upgraded one, you can spend X additional ammo and then you reveal that many tokens, whereas this one is limited to just a single one.
Yep.
Which I think I actually like this one better. Like, if I were going to play this with the Colts, let's say, because Nick, you're right, like they're one of the only guns that I'm like, yeah, I can spend an extra ammunition on an effect.
Right.
I think you really only need 1 extra token. Like, if you really need to pass something, you're probably going to be pumping yourself up to like 4 up or 5 up, and then this is just a don't draw the tentacle card.
Sure.
So
yeah, this is one that gets around the tentacle, which is really nice. But it, just like we mentioned before, for the vast majority of firearms or anything with, it has to be firearm. Vast majority of firearms, you'd rather have just take another test and potentially get 2 more damage. You know what I mean? Rather than turning 2 tests into 2 damage. So,
yeah.
And if you can get to your 4 up or your 5 up, you know, whatever you need to do to be like one token territory, this is an auto succeed. So
true.
Yeah. Now, the ammo does have to come from the weapon you're using. Like,
yes.
See, that's the thing, right? Like, so if you're using your if you're using your is flamethrower a firearm? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I mean, it's quite literally a firearm, but...
Let's say you're using one of your big weapons that only comes with like 3 ammunition.
Yeah. Like shotgun.
yeah, or shotgun comes with 2, right? Is this worth it?
God, no.
To make sure. No, it's terrible. But like Casey says in the chat, like if you're trying to one-shot the boss with all your vicious blows and everything like that, and you need to make sure that you're in exactly 1 token territory, and like you do the math and you're 9 up, so even the -4 brings you down to 5 up. You know that this test is passing. That's where I see this card.
Sure.
So it's also super handy, I think, too, even with a Colt, when let's say you're aiming at an enemy that's with another person.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right, like you have 1 action left, and you can easily get to 4 up, and you're like, it's something small, but you have to make sure you don't auto fail. This is another, I like it.
Yeah,
It's a fun card.
Excellent.
I don't know if Eat Lead level 2 is worth it, so I actually like this downgraded one.
Well, I think that's why we saw this one show up, was because Eat Lead level 2, that was one that we were all kind of universally... I know I was excited for it at first, but then the more we talked about it, the more I thought about it, it was like, yeah, the cost is like, why would you... 2 experience to use a bunch of ammo for just more tokens?
Yeah, it's super marginal, so not having to upgrade into it is a plus.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, the next card is level 4 Logical Reasoning, which is, of course, a Seeker event. It is 2 cost. It has 3 willpower icons. It is insight traded. And for each clue you have to a maximum of 3, either heal 2 horror from an investigator at your location or discard a terror card at your location. This card is bonkers.
Is it 4 XP bonkers, though?
It depends on your situation. I will say I'm really up on this one right now because Justin upgraded into this with his Jack each time. Obviously for himself, because Jack has 1 willpower and just like goes fast and gets hit with lots of things. So he just needed it. Excuse me. And I was playing Daniela through Edge of the Earth, and I was taking a bunch of horror because I was taking a bunch of attacks. And yeah, I just it did a lot of work. I think the whole terror thing is going to be really campaign and scenario specific. This is way more about healing horror for what I've seen.
Well, yeah, and the fact that it's for each clue, so you could still heal 2 or 4 horror and get rid of a terror card. Like, this is so flexible. Well, I guess between those 2 options, it's flexible. But to Scott's point, I'm the person who I look at this and I'm like, oh my god, this is a bomb card. I love it. This is amazing. So good. And then every time I play, even if I include logical reasoning, I never upgrade it. I just stick with level 0. And that's just because in my, for experience, that's when we start looking at, that's when I start looking at, if I have 4 experience, I look at 2 experience cards that I can get 2 copies of that are going to fit into the theme of my deck rather than, or the whatever I'm trying to do with my deck, rather than protect me from horror. Now, the follow-up question to that would be, well, Nick, how many games do your investigators go insane? And, well, we're not going to talk about that, because I'm talking about how often I take logical reasoning. So.
And I resent the question.
Now, to be fair, we are talking about which campaign specifically you'd like it in, and Chad is going afire with discussing this card, because I think it is super campaign dependent. I think you're right. Carcosa has tons of terror cards, and also the Striking Fear set, which is from the core, which shows up so many times. You have Frozen in Fear and Dissonant Voices. So if someone across the table from you, who's at your location, has Dissonant Voices in play, if you go first, you can get rid of that Dissonant Voices. And do some healing, and maybe get Frozen Fear off somebody, right? Like, so, yeah, if you're, depending on the campaign, I mean...
And, yeah, I mean, I feel like the thing that we haven't explicitly mentioned yet is the fact that this goes multiplayer with it, because, level 0, you can only heal it from yourself, or discard a terror from yourself, but the fact that this goes multiplayer, and not only is it like you can heal yourself, or it's you can heal yourself and a teammate. I think this is 4 XP good in 4-player a decent amount of the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, when I run Carolyn again, I'm probably going to take one of these if not 2. So
Oh, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you?
mm-hmm.
So good. Excellent. Scott, I bet you have opinions. I know we're going out of order.
That's
That's
okay.
fine. I'll
Keep
take the
show
shitty
rolling.
next card.
I'll take the shitty next card.
Archaic Glyphs is a level 3 seeker asset that costs 2. Has a subtext, Markings of Isis. Has an intellect and a combat icon, spell traded, and you can only upgrade it as long as the archaic glyphs are untranslatable. Blah. Anyways, it's an upgrade card. Uses 3 charges. Action, spend 1 charge. Investigate. If you succeed, you may put an asset with printed X cost or lower into play from your hand. X is the amount you succeed by, and it takes up an arcane slot.
So this is nice because it's a rider on an investigate test, so you're still getting the benefit of the investigate test.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's a triple Unearth the Ancients.
Yeah, it's
kind of.
Well, yeah.
But you're not risking anything from the beginning. Like
Right.
It's better than Unearth the Ancients, which I realize is still a pet card for me.
But but much like Strange Solution, or God, any of the other ones really. You're probably not going to pick this one unless you go with Shrewd Knowledge and end up getting this randomly, I think you're probably going to go for the one that gets you the extra clues first and foremost, right?
Yeah, I honestly think that's probably the best of them. You're right, Nick. I feel like it's for all these Seeker side quest cards, there's always one that kind of really shines.
Yeah.
Except for Dream Diary, I feel like they're almost all
I would agree there.
equal.
Dream Diary it depends on your build.
And also, you just don't care sometimes. You're like, sweet, free unexpected turns
Yeah,
every turn.
exactly.
Right? Like, oh, look, this bonus showed up once.
Mhm.
Neat. And also, I kind of... How many assets do you need to get out that you want to upgrade into this? Like, how asset heavy is your build?
Yeah. I mean, Seeker can be very asset heavy. They're not always. But if you're running like a Daisy deck and you're capitalizing on tomes, obviously, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And spells even, too, with her. There's a lot of assets that you can get into play that this would be useful with. And she has a high enough int that you're set, you know what I mean, right away. But I don't know.
Well, if you get this like late in the game, I feel like all the other ones, if they're translated, like you can use the other ones later in the game. This one is kind of like, well, I have my tableau set up.
Yeah.
I guess it keeps your tempo going because like if you ever do have to play something else down, you've
That's
essentially got 3 chances at it. But yeah.
Big.
And then I also kind of think like if the cost, like let's say you're trying to get out like a fingerprint kit or something to get the clue going with fingerprint kit, it's like, well, why don't you just grab the glyphs that get you extra clues in the first place?
Yes.
Like cut out the middleman.
Yeah, well, that particular example isn't a great. That's not a great vote of confidence for the Markings of Isis. But yeah, I think good targets would be again things like Scroll of Prophecies or well, that's a Mystic card, but again, Daisy
Hawkeye.
can take it. Hawkeye.
Folding camera.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Not the Archer.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I take it back. The other 2 archaic glyphs, because I remember Guiding Stones. I like Prophecy Foretold too. That's the spend 1 charge, investigate. If you succeed, you make it automatically evade and engage.
I love that one.
This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. It doesn't say non-elite either.
Right.
Like you can evade bosses with this.
That's very, very good in solo.
Yes.
Yeah, like this one, I feel like this card. There's been a high bar set.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't quite get there.
It's literally Strange Solution again. Like they introduce another one, and it's sure. Is it good? Yeah, it's good. But it's not as good as literally S tier other one that came out with the original incarnation. So
this one's fun.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
I feel like with the untranslated and undeciphered stuff that's a pretty common theme, that there's one that is generally head and shoulders above the others. And you kind of have to actively be like, I'm not playing the good one this time in order to actually see what the other ones do.
Yeah, or Shrewd Knowledge gave me this one.
Who else? Yeah.
I think if you're running like a Charles Ross Esquire support seeker deck, you'd probably play this, but who does that?
Yeah. It's funny too because the other two glyphs, like Guiding Stones, is totally multiplayer,
Yes.
and then Prophecy Foretold is totally solo.
Mhm.
I mean, you can use them either or,
Right.
but they fit. And then this one is kind of like, I'm not sure what you do. I'm not sure where you fit.
Oh, marking devices. What is it exactly that you do here? Well,
All right.
hopefully it'll
anyways.
continue flying under the radar. I guess I'll take the shitty one apparently. Stealth is a level 3 2-cost rogue asset. It has 2 agility icons. It is talent traded, and Squiggly Boy action. No, that's not an action. Decidedly free triggered ability. There we go. Nailed it. During your turn, exhaust stealth, evade. The chosen enemy gets -2 evade for this evasion attempt. If you successfully evade the enemy, disengage with it, but do not exhaust it. Till the end of your turn, that enemy cannot engage you.
So levels, when I'm building a rogue deck, I always run across the level 0 version. I go, oh my god, that's right, this is a card.
Mhm.
And then when I'm upgrading that rogue deck, I come across this and I'm like, oh my god, that's right, they upgraded it. I never play them.
I've played the upgrade one.
Yeah, I feel like the
For the
upgrade one is
-2.
actually worth looking at. Because
Well, just because it's action economy, right? Like it's fast versus.
Oh,
an
that's
action.
right, the level 0
Mhm.
is an action, isn't it?
Yeah.
well,
Plus, like this in Finn,
Sure.
like then like your enemy management is handled because he has a free evade plus this evade plus there's tons of cards now like after you evade something like
Yeah.
Hatchet Man or
Mhm.
the gun or whatever. I've also played this in Safina. I find it really good.
Huh.
But
Okay.
Sean, you've used this as well.
I've tried it a couple times. I think it's interesting. It's not a card that's ever like blown me away. It's better in solo than in any other mode because this is basically like a little hiding spot just for yourself.
Mhm.
I had a really cheeky Preston build that used this and Dumb Luck.
Yeah.
Because between those 2 cards, you can basically dumb luck any enemy in the game. So that's a combo that you could play. It's a lot to set up for a little bit of fun, but
but it doesn't cost you an action. to do all that.
exactly. Like, okay, so here's the thing. Getting an action anywhere is always going to be valuable. I feel like extra actions in combination with evade is particularly juicy because if you're evading, you want extra actions to either like get the clues out from under the enemy and GTFO, or you want the extra action to attack and get damage on the enemy, or whatever it is you're doing, because just having this as a free action to evade, not worry about the enemy for a turn, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, the real weird question is, in Rogue, what value do you guys think this adds as opposed to just evading? Like, say, with a Finn who has a free action, or like with a card like Slip Away that exhausts the enemy for another turn, or, some of the other options you might look at for the purpose of evading.
I think for me it's just the fastness of it.
Yeah.
Like it's a free action, so you can walk one location farther,
Sure.
away from the enemy, so that the fact that it's not exhausted kind of gets mathed in. Do you know what I mean? If you're trying to like evade it and leave, and that allows you to move closer to whatever your end goal is.
It occurs to me that, on top of the -2, which is great because, similar to Flashlight, we always talk about if you can hit a 2 shroud location, you're just in the money. Like you're one token territory. That's just great. But particularly in Rogue, -2 to the difficulty of the test is going to let you succeed by more, which, there's a few things you could trigger off of that.
Sure.
So that's not nothing.
Volt Glass mentions in chat that it works on elites,
Sure.
which is very important. And then Casey also said in multiplayer it frees people from needing to grab it off of you, the enemy.
Sure.
So if you're Chloe Safina or something, and you're playing with a killer, you can, free action disengage from this thing, and then your killer can take care of it, and there wasn't an action needed to.
Yeah, I suppose. And if they're at the same location, it'll just automatically
bounces over,
engage whatever other investigators there. Huh.
The rogue just
hot potato.
grabs the monster by the shoulders and just turns it around.
Yeah. Hot potato.
Yeah, okay. I can see the strengths of this leveled up version, but the problem is that it's still 3 experience, and I would rather buy Lola Santiago or Delilah O'Rourke. Like 3 experience, you get some pretty bomb cards in Rogue for that much experience. So I don't.
Yeah,
it's tough.
And it is an asset for evading, which I feel like is a little bit more rare, right?
Yes, you're
a lot
right
of
on
the
that.
evade effects are events or skill abilities. So it's a little bit of a got its own niche here.
Mm-hmm.
And like worst case Ontario, if you're not playing, was it the Innsmouth Conspiracy, where every time something engages you, it does something terrible.
Yeah.
But like if you're playing, let's say, solo with this, and in case you just brought up Trish, I mean, Trish is a great one for this. But if there's just that one enemy that keeps on following you around, well, it's a free action every turn to evade it.
Yeah.
So it's not really taking away from you. Like, even if you move one location away and sit there, that comes back and hunts to you and stuff like that.
But the problem is it's still going to attack you.
Yeah, that's true.
So
it's just till the end of your turn.
Yeah. So against hunters, I think this sucks against hunters.
Yeah.
Unless you're specifically just blitzing off and running 3 locations or whatever. I think where this shines is obviously against non-hunting enemies and against elites. So
cool.
I think this is probably more of a multiplayer card, just because of the tricks available to it. I think, and the fact that you can evade the elite enemies, like for bosses and stuff. I don't know. That's kind of what this card feels like to me. Sure. The times I've used it solo, but I think it shines a little bit more in multiplayer.
Interesting. Which is funny because I'm normally of the mind that evade effects are inherently better in solo. So that's cool.
Well, I mean, normal evade, I would say I would disagree because it exhausts the enemy. And so then everyone's free to just wail on it. This particular one, it doesn't exhaust the enemy. So it's in this weird place where it's like, yeah, maybe it is better solo. I don't know.
All right. Fair enough. Stealth. Maybe use it.
Just a suggestion.
All right, I think we're back to Nick.
Suggestion is a level 1. What? Rogue asset that costs 3 resources, has a will icon, spell traded, uses 3 charges. If suggestion has no charges, discard it. Action, exhaust suggestion, evade. Add your will value to your skill value for this evasion attempt. If you do not succeed by at least 2, remove 1 charge from suggestion. It takes an arcane slot. I love the conditional removal of charges. Adding will to your skill value is nice, but it's that is going to shuffle this into only a few rogues. You know what I mean? So, but still
or non-rogues with rogue access.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Not as good.
Go on.
I was just saying, not as good as level 4, obviously, because you're missing that awesome just cancel the attack ability. But still, for 1 experience, I think this is a good buy.
This is evade lockpicks. And we like lockpicks. I think lockpicks fills a hole that's larger in the rest of the rogue suite.
100%.
But no, just props to both of you for not saying that's what she said. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever used it. I mean, I know I've never used the level 1 one.
I haven't because I feel like it's missing 2 key things. Or, well, there's 2 key differences, right? Like, Nick, like you said, the ability to just cancel an attack, which is amazing. And 2, the upgraded one, you can keep on using the ability even after you don't have charges. Like, you only have to spend the charge or you have to remove a charge if you don't succeed by at least 2. But once it's empty, you can still use the action on it. But on the level 1 one, it gets rid of itself. Because once it has no charges, you have to discard it.
Yep.
So the level 4 one, like, is just a constant, once per turn, add your willpower to your agility for this evasion attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Which is insanely strong.
Yes.
What's odd about this is this actually just like purely from a like value offering perspective would work best in a rogue that can't normally evade things with agility very well, but has decent willpower.
So a low agility, high will rogue? What?
Yeah, and to my knowledge, such a rogue does not exist. I suppose Leo.
I see it
Leo
more
can
as,
take this. Yeah, Voltglass points out Leo. Leo has access to this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I still like it in Safina.
Yep.
Sure.
Just because it guarantees me, like, pretty much guarantees me the evade. Right? Like, it's, once you get it out, I'm evading one thing per turn. For sure. More or less, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Casey brings up a very good point, though. If suggestion is a big part of your build, for whatever reason, then why wouldn't you just buy the big one?
Yeah, maybe just like you're working your way up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the stepping of XP.
Or if you only have off-class rogue access or only spell access.
Right. Well,
but I can't think of someone with only off-class that this is something I'm looking at.
Right? Yeah, like Leo is brought up, and Leo can take it, but I don't think Leo cares about evading. Everyone says Akachi, but the spells that Akachi has access to...
I like Mists over this.
Yeah,
personally.
Mists is really good.
Yeah. I guess Wendy, but I mean, there's so many things that Wendy can do. Like, she's already got good evasion.
She's got 3 will, right?
4.
So 4. Okay, I thought she had 4 agility.
Yeah.
Okay.
She also has 4 agility.
Jesus.
Yeah. Wendy's really good.
Wow.
Nick.
Wendy. That's okay. Yeah,
Nick,
Wendy. I can see this.
Wait till you hear it. 3 intellect.
Yeah.
God, her
Doing the
combat
Vince
must be through
McMahon
the
meme
roof
over there.
No, it's only one combat.
Oh,
but get
no!
this, she gets a switchblade.
And a baseball bat.
All right,
Yeah.
no, we're not going to spend any more time on suggestion.
Yeah.
Next is alchemical transmutation.
Transmute into this other one. Yeah.
Level 2, I'm just going to take it because it's purple. Level 2 is a 0-cost mystic asset. It has a willpower and an intellect icon. It is a spell. It uses 4 charges. Action, exhaust alchemical transmutation, spend a charge, test willpower 0. For each point you succeed by, gain a resource to a maximum of 4. And if a bad stuff token is revealed during this test, take a damage. And it takes up an arcane slot, as you might think. So I can say that level 0 has always been too slow for me for too little payoff. The fact that it caps out at 3 is rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I have used this. I have used upgraded one before as a resource engine in both Gloria and in Marie because I didn't have to devote arcane slots to investigating.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Works pretty well there. Where I have found this to be most effective and most fun is one Dexter Drake.
Sure.
Because
okay, yeah.
Even at level 0, I have found level 0 is even good in Dexter because it doesn't cost you the action to put it down.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the charges up. You have access to things that reward you for big money in Dexter.
Yeah.
I ran a well-connected and eventually a high roller Dexter deck, and that was really fun. And then you just scoot it out for the next thing. In Dexter, this is a crazy good economy card. Beyond that, if you've got anything that's using charges for something other than using the ability on this card, like Torrent of Power.
Yeah, there we go.
If you need extra charges, play this spell.
Look, I am a Torrent of Power apologist.
It's a good card.
And this is a good little engine for it, because chances are, even if you're using this for resources, you may not be using all of the charges. You know, if you get 9 resources off this thing, you're kind of set in a lot of cases, unless you've built your curve really wide. I mean, I I think it's a pretty good card. I think if you can spare the arcane slot, this is a good resource option.
I have seen this used, and the only place I have used it is Akachi.
Sure.
And she gets the 5 charges, plus she has all the ways to play around with charges, plus her weakness. Like,
yeah.
this is something
just,
I'm like,
just
well,
feed this to it.
Right? Like, it's got enough to fill up her weakness, and you still have 1 left over. And let's see, Volkglass says his wife is using it for huge value with Akachi and Sign Magic. I mean, the only downside of... Oh, Sign Magic 3.
Yeah, the
Ooh.
one that gives you a free action or whatever.
Ooh, that's not
Yeah.
a bad free action.
And I mean, Sign Magic is always like, oh, it costs 3, but I guess it's fast. Well, you know what? Alchemical Transmutation can get you that 3 resources back, plus 1 more.
God.
And Akachi's got the high willpower for it. Like, it, yeah, I love this card in Akachi.
Can we just
Pretty much
review
that's it, though.
Sign Magic 3 for a little bit? Can we just do that?
The thing that... No, we can't.
Okay.
The thing that... For me, it's like, this is... I see all the strengths of this card. I see what it can do. I like that. I like what it's trying to do, and I agree with everything Sean says. But in my head, I'm still going, Uncage the Soul, or whatever that one's called. Like, that's still the only resource card I run in most of my Mystics. Because the only thing I'm spending a bunch of cash on is spells. Generally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like, boom, you reduce it by 3 when you play it. Like, yeah, awesome. I love it. And
Yeah,
it's zero
like
experience.
Uncage is very, very efficient, both from like an action perspective and just getting a big spell down.
Yeah.
I feel like this is your weird Mystic build where you're not using your arcane slots specifically to function. If you're playing a Mystic who functions with their normal stats, either in fighting or in investigating, and you can offload then your resource stuff, Alchemical Transmutation looks a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would
Or,
agree.
I mean, like Volt said, like Sign Magic 3, you get that extra arcane slot, so you fill it with this, make tons of money.
And this is probably one of the... Well, never mind. I would eat those words as soon as I said it. I was going to say, this is probably one of the better choices for Sign Magic 3, but that's not true, because Sign Magic 3 makes every spell better. So if the spell is good, it's better with Sign Magic 3. So
Can we just talk about Sign Magic 3?
No, so
One of the downsides to Uncage the Soul for me, or sorry, Unquiche the Soul, is if you're using it to play something like, oh god, what's the Mystic spell? It's an event. It costs 2 Spectral
any
Razor?
one of those, that suite of them. But yeah, okay, Spectral Razor.
Yeah, but if you just play Spectral Razor, you don't take an attack of opportunity. But if you play Uncage the Soul to play Spectral Razor, you do take an attack of opportunity because you're playing Uncage the Soul.
But why would you do that then?
Well, if you don't have the money, I don't know.
Sure.
This is
okay.
Yeah,
I don't.
But I do.
Yeah.
I do agree. Like Uncage the Soul fills in a lot of gaps as far as resources.
Yeah. Anyway, it's got its spots, but I feel like it, as with a lot of Mystic cards that give you like an ancillary effect that's not killing or cluing, that arcane slot comes at a cost. So like that's always my biggest thing is you've got to mitigate the fact that I'm a Mystic. I need that slot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest part of it.
Excellent. Scott, bring us home? No, we're not done.
Bring us home.
Do the next one.
Sean stops at
Okay.
Mystic, obviously.
I mean, does it surprise anyone?
Every card after this is garbage. Because it's not purple. Lantern is a level 2 1 cost survivor asset.
Wait.
What?
We're skipping one.
Yeah, you skipped the actual one.
Oh, whoops. Storm of Spirits.
There we go.
Sorry, I just don't see other cards but red.
So glad we've coordinated this to be effective.
Storm of Spirits.
Different
Is a
70% at work.
Is a 3 cost level 3 mystic event. It has the willpower and 2 combat icons. Is spell traded. Fight. This attack uses willpower instead of combat. You get +2 willpower for this attack. If you succeed, instead of its standard damage, this attack deals 3 damage to each enemy at your location. Any additional damage is dealt to the attacked enemy. If a bad stuff token is revealed, except for curses, Symbols revealed during the attack deal 2 damage to each investigator at your location. If you're playing Storm of Spirits level 0 and it seems to be a thing you're using often, then this is a good upgrade.
I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
Bumping up to 2 damage to each investigator at your location is not nothing, though.
Oh, no.
Nope, certainly is not.
Okay, so it's good, obviously, and if you're playing killer in 4-player and there's enemies around, obviously you'd look at this. I'm curious, in your guys' experience, because you both play a decent mix of player counts, how often have you actually taken this?
Never.
I know I have. It's just rare. Because I find the normal Storm of Spirits
Does the job.
usually sufficient.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I'm at. Like, I can see the value in this. It's not a bad include. If someone was like, I'm buying level 3 Storm of Spirits, I'd be like, yeah, you do that. But level 0 is just so, it's so tight. It's so tight.
I think if I'm taking this, I'm probably willing to take the Mystic card that stops the reaction on the... I'm really good with card names tonight.
Eldritch Invocation.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. You either cancel it or resolve it a second time. So you could be a dick and resolve it a second time and hit everybody for 4 damage.
Eldritch Inspiration is...
Sorry.
So I use it to double it because what the fuck's Athena? Grief deck. Oh wait, no, she can't take it. But yeah, it's like this is one that maybe you take Eldritch Inspiration, and if you're using a lot of spells, like I mean, it has other uses in the deck, like it can stop a shriveling ping on yourself or whatever, right? Like it, but that risk of 2 damage is real. Or you play this when you have enough token filtering that you're pretty sure you can get away with not hitting a bad stuff token,
or
because 2 damage each. Or you go in kamikaze.
Or you play this in Luke and you just go, I can take care of all those enemies, guys, and you just play it from a location away, and you don't care what you draw.
Well, but
As
you
if
are
you're
considered
at
to be
that
at that
location.
location. Yeah, you would take the 2 damage.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah.
As if...
Yeah.
Damn, I was really excited for this moment where Luke deals 3 damage to 4 enemies and 2 damage to 3 investigators.
I mean, he's still good.
Right?
And
from anywhere. Yeah.
Big Kahuna brings this up in chat, and this is something I've kind of taken umbrage with for a good long while. I'm not a giant fan because I actually do kind of really like the whole mystic theme of like power at a cost.
Yeah.
So many of these spells have a really cool effect and a possible downside that is not nothing. But if I'm spending 3 XP on this card and the downside scales with the upside as well, it kind of feels like some of that XP is almost squandered in a way. So, I mean, unless you're doing something very specifically to, like, you know, grotesque statue or premonition before you do this to otherwise mitigate, you know, whether you're drawing that bad stuff, sometimes it feels like some of these mystic cards, either the downside should have stayed where it was at level 0, or these should be worth fewer XP.
Like, let's look at Shriveling level 5. Terrible card, right? Like, that just... I hate that card. Hate it so much.
I think those downsides exist because you're doing something... You're forcing the ability to use your best stat to do something that normally requires a different stat that you're probably shitty at. But it's like, you're already having to use charges for that most of the time. You have to get an asset in play in order to do that.
Yeah, but okay, like, look at Guardians are always using their fists to shoot their guns, and their level 5 guns are really good. And when a Mystic goes to use their level 5 spells, and they use their willpower to shoot their spells, like,
right, but the difference...
What gun do you have where it's like, I draw a bad thing?
No, the difference is like
my gun explodes.
If a Guardian had a level 5 card that was like, test combat for this investigate test. If you succeed, you get, you know, additional clues, blah, blah, blah. Like, that would be, you know what I mean? Like, that would be really good.
Yeah.
Using combat for fighting, well, of course, that's what you fight with is combat. The point is that will it's not used for any basic action, and so Mystic's able to use will. Now, I'm just only arguing for the level 0s. Like, that's why I think that downside exists. I also agree with you guys that the downside upgrading is a pretty big feel bad moment when you buy some of those higher level spells.
I feel like if the downside upgrades with the upside, at least lower the resource cost.
Oh yeah, or make it 2 experience instead of 3 or something, or whatever. Unless they're doing that, unless you're designing it at 3 experience in order to lock it out of certain characters, that could be the case too.
Yeah,
the level gating,
which I expect is probably the reason this is level 3.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm glad we were able to shine some light on that one.
So Lantern is a level 2 survivor asset. It costs 1 resource, has 2 intellect icons, item tool traded, action, investigate. Your location gets -1 shroud for this investigation. Action, discard Lantern, deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location, or remove Lantern from the game to deal 2 damage instead. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity, takes up a hand slot. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good when this came out.
Yeah.
I think survivors have moved on a bit as far as clue acquisition and whatnot. But I did really like it also for solo. I'd use this in Wendy a decent amount because -1 shroud plus whatever skills I could throw in, it's probably enough. And just the ability to, and it would usually, I would just chuck this, like 2 damage, be gone to whatever enemy. I've used this in, what's his name? Preston, just to have that 2 damage.
Oh, yeah.
Like this, and we're going to talk about next, but the shovel, the leveled up ones in Preston.
Yes.
Yeah. I like them a lot.
So testless damage is good. Testless damage that can be applied to aloof enemies is good. This is a great whippoorwill whippoorwill. I said it right. Solution. This is actually pretty good in War of the Outer Gods.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because a lot of those aloof cultists have 2 health. I mean, the big problem with this is that you're upgrading. You do get a lower cost, which is cool. The investigate isn't changed at all from level 0, so you're not upgrading there. The upgrade that you're getting here is the ability to do more damage. But the problem I have with this one in particular, Gravedigger's shovel a little bit, and we'll talk about that, but this one in particular is, this is the sort of thing you want to be able to recur. So the cost to have to remove it from the game to get the benefit that you paid 2 XP for is so like antithetical to the survivor like way of doing these things that I've never taken this one.
I haven't either, and it's for that reason. Like if I'm using Lantern, then level 0 does the job well enough that this I don't see a need for it. You know what I mean? At least in the way that I build survivors.
Casey brings up the lower cost works better with Dark Horse.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you could...
Which I think when you're only getting the -1 shroud, like it's actually, if you're doing that Dark Horse thing, it's kind of like a
+2,
-1, +1.
Yeah.
You know, like
effectively
a 2
+2.
difference. Yeah. So like a flashlight kind of. So
you could just run flashlight. Takes half the slots.
Okay,
does the same thing. Yeah. All right.
But then you can't throw the flashlight to deal 2 damage, Nick.
That's true. That's very true.
You can with active desperation.
Oh no, +1 combat.
Big Kahuna brings up Old Keyring does this job better-ish. Yeah, I like Old Keyring a lot more than I like level 0 Lantern. In Bob, I run both. So,
I mean, the one thing that Lantern has going for it is that it is useless.
Yes. But that's the problem is, like what you said, you spend the experience and that part of it doesn't change.
Right.
It's just literally the one-time thing. So
Yeah. I don't know. Someone takes it probably, but I can't see wanting this over level 0.
Right.
I guess we're gonna have to dig a little deeper on that one in the future.
Sean, dig us out of this one.
All right. So Gravedigger's Shovel is a level 2 survivor asset. It is 1 cost, has 2 combat icons. It is item, tool, weapon, and melee traded. Action, fight. You get +2 combat for this attack. Or action. Oh, no colon on that one. Action, discard, Gravedigger Shovel. Oh, never mind. Weird.
It's there.
Because the cost is discarding. It's action and
Oh,
discard.
see,
so
you know
the
what?
cost is before the colon.
Here's the thing, guys. I've played this game relentlessly for now 5 years, and I only just noticed that sometimes the colon goes right after the arrow, and sometimes it goes after the non-bolded cost. So I'm glad we all got to share that moment together. Anyway, action.
Time for Scott's rules PSA. So the cost of a
Action, discard Gravedigger Shovel, discover 1 clue at your location, or remove Gravedigger Shovel from the game to discover 2 clues instead, and it takes up a hand slot.
Haven't we been here before?
I like this one better than I like Lantern.
Agreed.
Yes, I do agree.
Because
Yorick exists.
Yorick exists, and Yorick exists for level 0. But I like this one in even as like an offhand weapon in a flexi and like 2-player survivor, where you can just walk into that like 5 shroud 2 clue victory location and be like, okay, done now.
Yeah,
and I've done that, and it's very satisfying.
I
feel like
this one kind of like.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say the level 0 Gravedigger Shovel. It kind of feels bad to like put it down for an action and then discard it for an action to get a clue. So it's like 2 actions for a clue. But when you talk about putting this down for an action and then discarding for an action and getting the 2 clues, right? Like that's equal to me as investigating twice.
Yes.
And like you said, Sean, you walk in on that 5 shroud. How much resources are you going to have to pour in, even as a seeker, to get both of those clues?
Right.
It's going to be at least a skill, either deduction, or you're going to need a couple perceptions or whatever. You're going to need something, right? And to be able to do that with those 2 actions, essentially testless.
Yeah, not touching the
this one's
chaos bag.
top-notch.
You can do it out from under a locked door or similar treachery. And here's the thing: is like the other one does damage, which is a thing you generally need to do, and that's a thing. But this is discard, remove from the game, advance your victory condition.
Yes.
And I just think that's inherently better. Also,
and as like,
go ahead.
No, you go this time.
Well, I was gonna say also this one's really cool because it leans toward flex, where it's like part fight and part clue. But I also just realized that you could say the exact same thing about Lantern, so I'm sad that I started this sentence.
It is, but this one I think is more effective at what it does on either side. Right? Like the Lantern, you can discard it for 1 damage or 2 if you discard it, but again, that 2 damage, is that advancing you towards your victory? I mean, you could argue depending on the enemy that you're killing, maybe.
And the scenario.
But it's only -1 shroud, whereas this one is +2 combat, and you don't have the damage compression as a lot of weapons that we want to have do. But you don't get clue compression on the Lantern either. But this gets you 2 clues, or 1, depending if you're solo or 2-player. And like we said, that big 5 or 6 shroud with 2 clues, to be able to just knock it out.
Yeah.
Like I vastly prefer this because there's very few 5 or 6 combat 2 health enemies.
Well, also, you can walk into that 5 shroud location, and taking the action to play this, the location's not going to hit you for that. Whereas Lantern, you have to have that in play before you need it. Whereas this, you can play it when you need it and then use it right away. You know what I mean? Like, if you play Lantern, you're going to get the attack of opportunity, which you're probably going to want to avoid anyway. So.
Yeah, it's good. It does a similar job to, like, Drawn to the Flame. But you don't have to draw an encounter card, you just have to spend an extra action.
Sure.
Well, you have to have it level 2 as well.
Well, and
2
I suppose
experience.
XP is a thing.
And
it costs 1.
Just to...
And it takes up a hand slot.
Okay, I regret the comparison. God!
It's also not exiling. It's just removing from the game.
That's true.
So you get to keep it.
That's true.
That's a key difference too. That's
That is important.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Well, 2 hours in, let's talk about the campaign.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this isn't like we're at 2 hours in, but this isn't gonna be a super monster episode because off the top of your head, how many changes can you list between normal Carcosa and Return to? Because I can only list like 2.
It's definitely
Okay.
not as distinct as it has
Right.
been
It's
in other
most-
returns.
Yeah, it's mostly just like enhanced variability in like locations and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So without looking at the list, I think I can name 3 differences.
Okay.
The Diane Divine
Yep.
changes
That's
Yes.
key.
to actually be effective in the
The Last King.
the place where the Last King. Thank you. And then in the Echoes of the Past, is that the one in the Historical
Yes,
Society?
it is.
Mhm.
You get the basement that doesn't really matter.
Right?
You get the other floor that no one
Um,
visits.
Yeah. And then in Dim Carcosa, there is... Oh god, there's like different locations or something.
Yeah, well, I mean,
There's
you
an
could say that about every scenario, but yes, there's
They're
distinct.
but they're really
Yeah.
Yep, that's about it.
Cool. Well, let's do that, but longer and in order.
Okay.
So, return to Curtain Call. Yeah, okay, so obviously, spoiler alert for the Path to Carcosa. We're no holds barred at this point. Going in deep.
Yeah.
So, return to Curtain Call. Biggest thing here is we have La Comtesse.
That's
as,
the biggest thing?
Well, okay, that's the thing that springs to mind first. I suppose
Oh,
we
okay.
also have a couple of extra The Stranger Act 2As.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool because we had 3 in vanilla.
Mhm.
Add 3 more, you've got no idea what's potentially coming when you play Return with the normal rules.
Mhm.
La Comtesse is interesting. She hops up in the balcony and then hunts and like hops into your hand, which, you know, playing around with the hidden cards. I have found that the Return, I was gonna say it just makes hidden cards more interesting. I think that's true. What do you guys think?
I think so. Like classic Carcosa, we were so excited about what the hidden cards could do, and then they were all pretty, I don't want to say bland, but they didn't really hit the notes I think that we were expecting until you got to Dim Carcosa. Then there were a couple that were really interesting and unique. But since then, I think hidden cards have really kind of come into their own a bit more. And we see a lot, and that part of that is the return to the Path to Carcosa. So yeah, I definitely think that peril cards got more interesting.
Yeah, and before we move too far from
Chad is kind of yelling at us. Yeah. Speaking of hidden cards, the new basic weaknesses.
Yeah, so we did skip over the new basic weaknesses. So we've got Bloodthirst, which requires that you deal damage to an enemy in excess of its health to kill it. Unspeakable Oath requires that you investigate a location with that has no clues on it. That's Curiosity. And then Cowardice requires that you evade an exhausted, unengaged enemy at your location.
And if you have this in your hand at the end of the game, you get 2 less XP.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough, some of them.
So
depending on what you're doing.
Is Bloodthirst overall the easiest one of the 3 to proc?
If you are a combat player, yes.
Yeah. What I would say about all of these is that if you draw these in the wrong investigator, it is a bad time.
Mm-hmm. Well, our our TFA Iron Man, I got Bloodthirst in Ursula. I was like, well, that's 2 less
I'm
XP.
just not getting those experience.
That changed the way I played that campaign though, because I was less draw heavy. I instinctively remember like, okay, don't draw too many cards. Hopefully, don't get Unspeakable Oath. I think I only drew it 3 out of the 8 scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the last scenario, I was like, whatever, who cares? Doesn't matter. But yeah, it changed the way I played my deck. So I think they're super cool weaknesses though, because they bring that super fun hidden element into other campaigns.
I mean, because the thing that this does that's not actually printed on the card is it reduces your hand size by 1 out of the gate, which is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, it gives you another challenge that your investigator may or may not be well suited to do. And if you're really abiding by the hidden card rules, you've got to like be a little strategic in how you ask the table how you address it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I will say Okay, so I'm not a coward and reject my fate that often. Most of the time, if I'm tossing a weakness back, it's because I have just played with it a lot, and it's fucking chronophobia. Or
Simple chronophobia.
but some of these, like in the wrong investigators, like, well, I don't want to just have 2 fewer experience for the entire campaign. I'm just gonna see a new one.
That's possibly 14 less experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's Dunwich, I mean, that's
all
whole
your
deck.
experience.
Yeah, that's all of it.
The Delve Too Deep campaign.
Start versatiling in Delve Too Deep just so you can counterbalance the bloodthirst.
Yeah. And Nick, you mentioned you think bloodthirst is the easiest. Chat's kind of saying curiosity. And you know what? Honestly, if you get curiosity in like a seeker or someone you're getting the clues,
or even flex.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to successfully investigate.
Mm-hmm.
So like flex, sometimes I find I'm using like those cheat around cards, like scene of the crime, draw the flame stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I think cowardice is the most annoying.
I guess I was thinking that because bloodthirsty doesn't necessarily have to use an action. In fact, it shouldn't use an extra action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just need to make sure you deal 1 more damage than what the enemy needs. Whereas
like you see a rats, shoot your gun.
Yeah.
Done.
Whereas curiosity or cowardice, they both require you to do an action that has no benefit. That's what I was getting.
Well, and cowardice probably needs 2, right? Because you need to engage it first and then evade it again.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Well, no, use only on an exhausted, unengaged enemy at your location, so it does cover you there at least.
Oh, sure. So the enemy's lying on the
70%
floor,
of the
and
card.
you're just doing. The enemy's lying on the floor, and you're doing combat rolls around it.
Well, I have misplayed that
The Dark Souls card.
until now. Yep.
All right. So those are the hidden weaknesses.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nailed it. All right. So so back to Return to Curtain Call. The other thing that Return adds are the theater lounge and prop shop, which are lobby and backstage options that could get shuffled in. So maybe saying this at the very top would have been smart, but I actually really like to do the mix, like the random mix variant for Return to Carcosa, because I think it works really well with the hidden cards.
Oh, sure.
For Return to Carcosa, that's my favorite way to...
I've never done that for any of the campaigns.
Would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool way to add variability once you know what both of the static options would offer you.
Yeah.
Well, then we've got Return to the Last King, which
fixes Diane Divine,
which makes Diane Divine an actual obstacle.
Yeah. And my God, the party guests are
Yes.
so freaking annoying.
Yep, adding more sickening realities to the whole mix was a bit of a thing.
And then Shocking Display, Revelation, randomly resolve one of the sickening reality cards underneath the scenario reference card. Cannot be canceled.
Immune to player card effects. Yeah. I do like, and Big Kahuna brings it up, I actually do like the inclusion of the party guests as transformable enemies, because when I pull that and a party guest pops, I'm like, oh, cool. I can still go after the important NPCs. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't eat up one of those, so that is really cool. And I think Shocking Display is a nice kind of balance to that. So
there's only one copy of it.
Yep, and it only shows up once, so...
I find in general that the return changes make this scenario more dynamic.
Yes.
Because the vanilla version was fun, and it's very distinct within kind of the pantheon of Arkham scenarios as far as what you're doing. But outside of not knowing which party guest is going to transform first, you've got a static map. You know where you want to go. You know where you don't want to end your turn. Like you can really draw out your strategy. Whereas this really kind of throws a monkey in the wrench. Moving on from there, we've got Return to Echoes of the Past, which, as we've mentioned, adds the basement. So have fun with that, I guess. But it does also add a tougher cultist enemy in the Keeper of the Oath. which at the end of the enemy
Yes.
phase, find each investigator whose location shares a trait with Keeper of the Oath's location. So basically anyone on the same floor. Right? Those are all the traits? Yeah, traits are just floor to floor.
Yes.
And move one clue from each of those investigators to Keeper of Oath, which of course turns it into a Doom.
Well, it's floor to floor, and it's also passageways.
Oh, passageways.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Which is fun that now there's an enemy that can use passageways against you other than just moving. Like that's kind of a neat little wrinkle to an otherwise very vanilla Arkham game.
Yep. I would say
This scenario. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say that I don't think it necessarily makes the scenario a whole lot harder.
No.
But it does make it more interesting.
Yeah, this one is. I mean this in the best way possible. I forget it exists every time until I finish the party, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that one. Because it still kind of suffers from how you can like just get all the clues and then just be like advance.
Yes, yeah.
And then you know the keepers come out and stuff like that. But yeah, and I like it, you know, at the basement it's kind of neat. So when you start off on the first floor, you can go up or down. You know, you don't have to everyone head up, and then yeah.
But it's in such a
it's a fine scenario.
Yeah, but it's in such a banger of a campaign. Like Carcosa start to finish is just so phenomenal that this is unfortunately like the biggest sin of Carcosa is that it's just like this is a great one to teach to new players. You know what I mean? Like it's because it's just basic Arkham. So
yeah,
it does have the cool mechanic of like, you know, the cultists trying to essentially investigate too, which is super cool. So neat mechanic. It just this scenario is just kind of like, oh, cool.
And if you're playing solo, you'll be done before you'll be done playing before you're done setting up. Like that's literally how fast.
One scenario has to come last in the Carcosa Olympics. Yes, thanks.
I always forget that in solo you don't get a cultist to start out.
Yeah,
and that is so insane to me because I think when Carcosa was you know really in its release and you know high in the zeitgeist, I was not playing any solo at all. I was all multiplayer. There was always that initial rush to pop the cultist that you start the game with, and then I played solo the first time. I'm like, oh, I can just walk through this.
Yeah, because you're not putting Doom on the agenda, so you're just like, okay,
it's pretty great.
Casey points out, the basement lets you make the rookie mistake of exploring at one time.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
All right, Unspeakable Oath. Oh boy, this scenario also. I just remember back then how what do you call it? Contentious it was.
You were
ball busting.
It was such an action intensive scenario, and Return to potentially just makes that part of it even worse. And yet we all love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best kind of Arkhamtensity.
Yes.
Because the failure that is looming over you, you know what it is. It's just,
I appreciate everyone pretending that tensity is a word with me.
It also has the most disgusting artwork for me in the entire
Radical treatment!
Can't
really?
do it.
Host of Insanity is worse for me.
Oh, I mean, sure. But
no, I can't handle anything with eyes.
Host of Insanity is like that's pure fantasy. Like, you know that's not going to be a thing. But Radical Treatment, like, that's something that could theoretically happen.
Yeah, my eye doctor did that to me last time I was there.
Oh, shut up. Stop it.
With a scalpel?
That's
it's
a
not
scalpel?
It's a needle.
What?
It's like a crochet needle.
It's like a drumstick.
Crochets are hooks. It's a drumstick.
It's like anyways, I don't want to look at that art anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you get clouded memory, you get the radical treatment. So one actual thing that I'll say actually one more time, I really liked that Return to Carcosa has kind of done is it adds these victory events or these victory treacheries rather. which is something we haven't really seen a whole lot of. We had the Vengeance ones in TFA, but the victory ones where they're just like really nasty, but there's only one in the deck. If you succeed, you throw it in the victory display. It's kind of cool design space, and I kind of hope they look at stuff like that again.
Yeah. I really like Clouded Memory because in a scenario where you have to get like 5 of those things to remember, and then suddenly now there's a treachery that says, hey, forget that thing that you did and go do it again. Like, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Still a great scenario.
But yeah, love that scenario. God, I'm going to play Carcosa now. Oh wait, Edge just came out. Never mind. Okay, so return.
Still want to play Carcosa.
Return to Phantom of Truth. You know what? This is one of the ones where I can't even really remember what it changes. I think we get alternate versions of the locations, right?
Yeah, you get new locations and you get 2 new treacheries. Figure in the shadow. I'm sorry, 1 new treachery, 2 copies. Figure in the Shadows, which has a different effect based on your doubt or conviction. But it just makes the Organist move more.
Right, and we get an alternate version of the locations that vanilla Phantom doesn't have alternate locations for. Is that accurate?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm just looking at the replacement location. Yes, because it's a huge map, and I think like 3 or 4 of them have 2 copies, and the rest are 1, and this gives 2 copies for the rest.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, I really like Phantom. We can keep saying this. It's Carcosa. I like every one of these. But I do think Casey lays it out correctly here. That in the vanilla version, in 1v4 manhunt, inevitably the ability to spit up, divide and conquer, it puts the advantage in the player's court.
Yeah.
So giving the Organist a couple of extra tricks is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. All right, so Pallid Mask.
I love this
Tons
scenario.
of new locations.
Thanks, Nick.
I just do. I really do. It's so fun.
On to Black Star's Rise.
Yeah.
No.
This is still outside. This one and Depths of Yoth are still my favorite standalones to take from a campaign. Obviously, the standalones that are built to be standalone are a different beast, but I love this one to play standalone.
Sure.
This one still has one of my favorite memories of you and me, Nick. When the big boss shows up, and we just we're falling over. We're falling over each other to kill it. Like just
this was because I was Leo and you were Yorick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was the one.
And Bash Brothers.
Sean had this this poor game where he was Daisy and he couldn't get his clue acceleration out. So, and we were cleaning enemies like they were nothing. So Yorick and Leo started just raw investigating just because we had nothing else to do. Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with us.
Well, that's Depths of Yoth, but yeah, same principle.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, adding 4 new catacombs and a new mini boss, that's fun.
Yep.
I mean, this scenario didn't need a whole lot of change to begin with. There's already a ton of variability. Like, it just hits all of the big points that you'd want a scenario to hit. So,
well, and I think adding more locations to a scenario like this adds more value than the already laid out ones because there's so much RNG at play. Adding more to that RNG engine actually makes that RNG harder to track and stuff like, you know what I mean? Like, which ones have we seen so far? Now you have way more, and I believe you're removing a few at the beginning, so you can't even math it out. Right. Whereas, something like Phantom of Truth, it's like, well, we're getting 1 of 2 locations, and I know what they both do at Notre Dame or something, right? Like, so it's,
so good, so good. Can't rave enough. Okay, so on to Return to Black Star's Rise. This one was actually pretty minimal.
I think this might be the least amount of changes for all of them.
It's got to be pretty close. We get a new Knight's Hall and Cloister, and then we get either Hostur's Gaze or Grasp, depending on whether the path is above or below. So you don't even get both of them; you get one of them, right?
No.
Oh, you get both?
You get both?
with the treacheries.
Yeah.
No, because A and C is, remember, like they're both.
Oh, because you get two. That's right.
Oh
it's the
yeah, because
double
they're out
agenda
at the
one.
same
Yeah.
time. Never mind.
A is on the left, C is on the right. Yeah.
I take it all back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black Star's Rise is fun, and
Mhm.
this adds a bit to it.
Yep.
Why is that such a struggle for you to say?
Well, I just wish I had more to say, but I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say exactly what Casey said in the chat. Like, it's such a precarious scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty finely
It's-
tuned in its vanilla version.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, is it ever! I find like this is the one where I find like something like Where Doom Awaits nowadays. That's the 7th one in Dunwich,
Yes.
right? That one I'm like, it's especially in Return once they fix the action with the clues and finding locations,
Mhm.
whatever. Like, it's that pentultimate scenario, and I don't find it that scary
Right.
or difficult. Same thing in TFA. Like, if you play it right, Depths I don't find is like crazy. I know you can die.
Depths is
but-
like it's either a cakewalk or it's scary as hell. Like
But even when it's scary as hell, like if you don't fall from level 1, you might still survive.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, but Black Star's Rise is just oh dear God, this campaign has gone so well. I hope I can make it.
It really does
It's still
feel
just like,
yeah. It feels like
Yeah.
everything's come down to like a knife's edge in Black Star's Rise.
Mhm.
Sean coined the term Arkhamtensity previously, and I think
Mhm.
this is another one. This is a contender along with Unspeakable Oath to probably have the best amount of tension and still be super
Mhm.
enjoyable in this campaign for sure, if not the game.
God, isn't Carcosa just an amazing campaign?
It's phenomenal. I think it's still my favorite.
Just
Like,
yeah.
as far as like, I still feel like it falls within the realm of like vanilla Arkham in that it doesn't get like
wonky.
Too
I mean,
crazy,
I wouldn't even
yeah.
call it wonky, but it doesn't step like very far out of like the core set's mechanical realm.
Right.
Mhm.
It doesn't have like Explorer or anything, or any like heavy mechanical overlays like that, and it is just so solid.
Mhm.
All right, well,
Yeah.
on to Cosa. Dim lost Carcosa. See, I did that in minor for you guys. Return to Dim Carcosa. We get a big enemy. We get the High Priest of Hastur, who just makes the Palace of the King even worse.
yeah. Yeah.
So he's the one where if you get attacked and you are possessed, he just kills you.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
We get another version of. Oh wait, hang on. No, this isn't Return. I filed that wrong. I regret that sentence. Someone else say something.
We do get another version of the Palace of the King. And on top of that, we get 3 new locations: the Throne Room, the stage of the Ward Theater, which is really fun, and then the Recesses of Your Own Mind, which has one of my favorite traits in the whole game, which is just 3 question marks. So that's fun.
And also like the theming of Recesses of Your Own Mind, and each investigator there is considered to be at a different copy of it
Yeah.
for the purpose of player card. Like, God, that is just so cool.
But like Dim Carcosa is one of those where I struggled to remember like exactly what these changes mean for like the pace of the scenario, because I think there's like 3 different major variations of Dim Carcosa anyway, isn't there, right? Because you can come in from top or bottom, and then Hastur himself can have one of a few different forms. So
1 of 3, yeah.
So, and I didn't play the original one enough to have that cemented into my mind, to then make this be so much of a standout. So to me, I like Return to is Dim Carcosa to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, it's pretty solid.
We also get, in general, instead of Ancient Evils or big tentacles exploding, we get delusionary.
Delusionary.
Delusory?
Delusory. There. Delusory evils. And we must either add it to your hand or place 1 doom, blah, blah, blah. Can cause the current agenda to advance. Live, laugh, love. And then forced, when you would succeed at a skill test by 3 or more, you automatically fail instead, discard from your hand. This card, it seems like a really easy choice just to add it to your hand. You're like, you know what? Don't worry, I'm going to figure out a test I'm going to like bombastically pass, and it won't matter or whatever. But man, the amount of times this card has screwed me over, and I wish I just took that frickin' Doom.
This is my favorite Ancient Evils replacement within the context of its campaign. It actually offers you a cool choice, and once it's in your hand, you continue to think about it and play around it.
Yeah.
I love Delusionary Evils and hate it simultaneously. So think about the other encounter sets that we get. I'm just shuffling through here. Oh, of course, those are all the...
Casey says Scott thinks one of his actions is worth 12 of the group's actions. let that sink in. But you know what, though? Okay, first of all, in solo, depending on the task, it can be backbreaking. And even in 2-player, especially if you're doing like a Clover person and the Clover gets the thing, and like you need these clues and the time's ticking up, and it's like you want to start using your fingerprint kit and your deductions and all this stuff, like it can, or if you're the killer, right, and you need to get this enemy off of your seeker or something that's blocking the way, and you just succeed by just a bit too much. I think it can just you're pausing the loss for momentary gain, but that momentary loss is going to come back and bite you in the ass.
It stings hard when it stings.
Yeah.
If I'm running a shotgun deck, I just put the Doom every time.
Yeah. But we're in the witching hour, Nick, on the last agenda.
Don't care. I gotta use my shotgun.
So let's talk about the replacement hidden suite. So instead of the whispers in your head, we get visions in your mind. So they're parallel and hidden. So we have horrors, which when your turn ends, if you did not perform at least one play action during your turn, discard this card from your hand, take a direct damage and a direct horror. We've got hatred. If you did not perform at least one draw action, direct damage, direct horror. Death, if you did not perform at least one move action. And failure is if you did not perform at least one resource action, which...
That's the worst.
God, if you're going to waste my time clicking for resources. Yeah.
So weirdly enough, death, which seems like the worst, is actually, I find, the easiest. Like, just move.
I think, honestly, like, these seemed bad at the time, but now, especially going through Dream Eaters again and seeing the ones that are similar to these, but every time I draw it, I have to reread it 2 or 3 times, because it's like, you cannot play or commit cards with an even number of words in their title. Like, those are so much worse, excuse me, than this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Worse, like, in preventing your progress?
Like, these are easier to play around them in your hand, I think. You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah, well, it's an interesting difference from the original, because the original they were just taxing. Because they prevented you from doing things that chances are you really needed to do at some point.
Right.
So I found in vanilla Carcosa, if I got a hidden card, most of the time I was just finding the next opportunity I could to take 2 actions and get rid of it. So it just ended up being just a tax to slow me down. I think Maddening Delusions is a little bit more interesting in the regard of you can't take actions to just get rid of it and prevent it. Instead, if you're worried about taking that damage and horror and it being an eventual threat to you, which in Carcosa it is, you're playing around it. So it's kind of a more constant thing that you're keeping in your hand.
Right.
Depending on which one it is and who you're playing, it may not occupy too much mental real estate. But I do think it's interesting that they kind of stick around and they're kind of morphing the way you play instead of just preventing the way you play.
Which is another type of morphing. It's just more aggressive.
Right. So then other encounter sets, we've got Decaying Reality in place of the cockroaches. Whatever.
Yeah, it's
whatever.
the one with the
Decaying Filth.
The mice with all the maggots coming out of them, right?
The maggot swarm, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And while it has no clues, it gains hunter. I really like the design of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just adds 2 shroud, and when that location's empty, it moves on to another location where there might be more clues for it to annoy you with.
And then instead of corrosion, which can hit some investigators real hard.
Oh, I hate corrosion.
You've got fragile thoughts which hits events instead of assets from your hand,
Mm-hmm.
which can still hit hard depending on who you're playing. But
yeah, I don't like either.
yeah, it's not great. But I feel like with assets, you've taken the action, you've paid money to get those things down. To then lose them is like, I don't know. It's not comparable because then events you're keeping in your hand for that moment where you need them. So yeah. It's a cool change though. And again, things like this are the reason why I would really, really recommend playing the mix and match random Carcosa, because if you don't know what's coming and you don't know which version of the cards you got, it can be very, very interesting. And then I think that the last one is neurotic fear. I
really like Voice of Trunembra. Just test 3 willpower, and then for each one you have to choose a different thing. Either lose 2 resources, take a horror, get -2 for the next skill test you perform. Because if you just fail by 1, it's like, well, -2 the next skill tests. Maybe I can, just take a test that doesn't matter. But then that's almost like losing an action, if you think about it. But it doesn't immediately jump to your mind as losing an action. I don't know. I like the for each point you fail by, you must choose a different option, like those cards. Yeah.
And I've forgotten about the art on the Voice of Trunembra until just this moment, and oh my goodness, it's horrifying.
Oh yeah.
But it's definitely it's a cool swap out for Rotting Remains, because like we said, we see Striking Fear a lot. It's cool to see something doing something similar, but still, different.
Painful reflection. When blue magic came to Arkham. When you play an event, reveal a token. If it's a bad thing, cancel the event and take a horror.
It's just counterspell.
Oh, God, terrible.
And then, of course, Melancholy hops in, I think, kind of in place of Dissonant Voices, where hops into your threat area and increases the cost to play cards by 1 until you can hit a willpower test. Or maybe that's more like... Is that more like...
No, it's. I think it's in the same camp as Dissonant Voices because it locks you out of playing stuff. But unlike Dissonant Voices is a harder lock, but it goes away automatically. Whereas this one is a soft lock, but you have to get rid of it. So
yeah.
Yep. So overall, pretty great. I'll just reiterate again, Carcosa, I'd highly, highly, highly recommend doing the variant where you take the vanilla encounter set, mix it with the one it's supposed to replace, and then draw that number of cards. It really adds, particularly with the hidden card effects, it really adds some cool flavor to just not knowing what the hell is going on.
And I mean, Carcosa is just
such a gem.
I mean, we've waxed poetically on about Carcosa, and I feel like Return didn't change a lot of things, but it just tweaked, which I actually kind of like because Carcosa's so good to start with that if there was like overhauls on a couple scenarios, I feel like it would just take away rather than add. And it just, Return to Carcosa. I think overall the player cards I'm actually a little bit, I don't want to say down on, but there's nothing like, I'm looking at the player cards, I'm like, oh yeah, you need like, if you're going to buy this box, like, I mean, this card alone is worth buying it. I don't think there's any of that.
It's no Sign Magic 3.
Yeah. But man, like just the experience of being able to have another Carcosa experience.
Right.
That is why I bought this and still love it. Like it just
It brings Carcosa from a 9.5 on 10 to like a 9.75 on 10. Which
9.78 maybe.
Right. Which, like, is that a big bump? No. but it's still a bump.
But there wasn't much to bump.
Right.
That's the thing.
But at the same
Like,
time, would then that lead you to say, like, if someone's like, I don't have a bunch of cash, I can't get every return to, which one should I get? Would you say make sure you get Carcosa, or maybe don't worry about Carcosa, maybe skip it?
No,
It would be at the bottom of my return list currently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's not to say I don't
And
like it and it's not worth
Right.
buying, but it is
Right.
at the bottom of the list for me.
because Carcosa is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the thing, right? Like, the bar is already so high. There's not much higher you can get. So I would say other returns, especially like something like Dunwich, which kind of fixes a few things.
Dunwich and Forgotten Age, I think, do a huge amount for their campaigns.
Yeah.
TCU, I'm not. Jury's still out on that. I'm not.
Oh.
I think it adds a lot, but I don't think it fixes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll talk about TCU.
Can we talk about Sign Magic 3 for just a moment?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that on top of the tarot thing, I think TCU offers. I don't know. TCU's
Oh my
hard to
God,
compare.
you're right. I totally forgot about the fact that
TCU's
Yeah,
just
the
hard to
tarots are-
compare because it adds like a
Return to
whole new
TCU
thing.
makes every Arkham game potentially better. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Excellent. Well, that was fun. Now I just want to go play Return to Carcosa next time I start a new campaign. So I'll look forward to that. Guys,
Mhm.
let's round it out. Wow, round it out. I'm losing the ability to speak. I'm not even drunk. It's just late. Let's do some tentacle time. Nick, what's been grabbing you?
As I have mentioned before, I am in a play coming up, surprising nobody. I am playing Amadeus Mozart in the play Amadeus. We don't open until February, so we've started rehearsals early.
Amadeus.
But it'll be a lot of fun. So that has been taking up some of my time. Mass Effect. I'm 2/3 of the way through Mass Effect 3. Kind of stopped playing. Like, I was playing it every night for a while, and I just kind of stopped. I did the Citadel DLC, which I've never done before, and then I really haven't gone back to that after that. But that Citadel DLC is pretty great.
Yeah.
Like, everything I've heard about it was the party, and that was all I ever knew about it. But the little mission that you get before that against your clone was really fun. It was like this, it was kind of campy and this weird, but it was also like, it was a nice acknowledgement of all of the, like, progress you had made as Shepard, from the beginning. And like they get to this point where they're like locked in this vault, and they have like minutes before they suffocate. And it's nothing. It's an inconvenience to him, because he's just like, oh yeah, Glyph, unlock this and also unlock everyone else and get us all out of here. Like, of course it'd be super easy for him to get out of that. You know what I mean? So it was this fun little acknowledgement. But then also, I think the real strength of the Citadel DLC was all the one-on-one time that you get with each companion. Like, the party's fun and it's great, but wow, like, that's really all that I thought it was going to be short tentacle time, but of course I rambled. So that's me.
Scott.
Chess. Playing it. The World Championship of Chess is going on right now, and today was just game 6 of 14, and by the time, if anyone's paying attention, you already know the outcome. It was the first decisive game in the series, so the score is now essentially 1-0 for the current champion after 6 games. And this was actually, today was the...
Jesus, I see why they go to 14.
How does that math work?
They drew the first 5 games.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been like tie.
How common
So, I mean,
is it to draw games at that level? Is that like most
Apparently
games?
very.
This is in the classical format, so classical means like really long chess. Like this game, I mean, they each start out with 2 hours each, and then they get more time as they go on. This game was 7 hours and 45 minutes long today. In that style of chess, this is the first World Championship game to be decisive, so win or loss, since 2016.
Okay, so pretty common.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it only happens every 2 years, so it sounds like it's really long, but it's been like, I think 18 or 19 games of draws, like throughout World Championships till this one. But this one was also the longest world championship game by number of turns, or number of moves, sorry. So each player played 136 moves in this game. And then the challenger, who I learned how to pronounce Ian in Russian, Zion, he resigned. So, but he was like in a losing position. It was a couple more moves and it was over. But they, I mean, at that level, they know when they're done. So
Interesting.
So yeah, but it was like a super exciting game. And this sounds so silly because like, Scott, it's 7 hours.
It's 7
Well,
hours
like-
of chess, Scott.
I
yeah,
know.
but it felt like 23.
Yeah. It just, if you're really into it, it's really exciting.
Sure.
And if you're not,
Okay,
I completely
alright.
understand why you look at me and it's just like, what the fuck?
Can we be careful with our use of the word exciting? Maybe engaging?
My heart rate was up for like
For all
an
7.
hour.
Okay, I was like,
No, yeah.
you need to see your doctor, my friend.
Chess is not
For
cocaine.
one of those
No, Nick.
23
Yeah.
hours.
Well, and I'm kind of cheering for Jan too, because Magnus Carlsen is the champion. He's been, I think this is his 5th championship.
Oh, yeah. So
Which one?
everyone wants to see him toppled, huh?
Well, kind of, but he's also, like, based on ratings and stuff, he's the best chess player that has ever existed. So he's also like this, like, phenom, right? Like, he's just
He's the guy to beat.
well, and to be, you know, to be alive at this point, if you're a chess fan, like, you are witnessing a person who may not be replicated for a long time.
Sure.
So,
Well,
yeah.
let's
I don't know.
kick it into high gear with that cloning tech, I guess.
Squid Beer, how's the tailgate scene at the chess championships?
Still going on.
No. Yeah.
It's
Well, it's in
caviar and
Dubai, so
champagne.
very little. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's in Dubai this year, so maybe caviar and champagne. So, yeah. Anyways,
Well, cool.
if you want to talk chess with me, let me know, and we can chat about the game while it's on.
I mean,
But-
I kid, but it's only because I'm sad that I don't have the time or energy to devote at actually knowing anything about real chess.
I didn't sit there and watch it the whole game.
Hmm.
I like left and came back, because you can catch up. Like I can go online and check the moves and stuff,
Hmm.
and then yeah. So, but
Cool.
you know when something is like this pivotal thing has happened, they're entering the end game. Now I need to sit and stop and watch.
You know,
right? Like this
yeah,
is
like I laugh at you for that, but like
Mhm.
one of the things I love watching, I haven't watched in a long time, but one of the things I really love to watch is professional StarCraft. Yes. Professional StarCraft is amazing.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And there have been moments where like I'll be watching it and I'm like, "Oh my god." And my wife's like, "What?" Like they just moved these things over here and those things moved over there. But because I'm familiar, like I've played StarCraft, not professionally, obviously. Like you with chess, I studied it a lot way back in the day. Like I understand, I understand my limits, and I understand that I could never do what I'm watching on screen. So,
yeah, and it's like, oh my god, that just happened, and someone's like, what happened? It's like, it would take me 28
Yes!
minutes to explain the significance of
Exactly.
this, right? Going back to the very basics of StarCraft.
yeah, I would
Like,
miss so much from this game if I just took the time to explain to you. So I'm not going to do it.
And the explanation, I was always like, okay, so they're doing this, but actually, before I explain that, you have to understand this. And then, before I explain that, you have to understand
like
this. And just
28 hypothetical situations that didn't happen.
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's exactly with chess. It's like, okay, but yeah, no, because he didn't. But okay, but before the on move 53. But okay, in the opening, which is a variation of this other opening, which you have to know this opening to understand this opening. It just it was just
God damn.
yeah. Anyways,
Oh, cool.
Sean, what's been enthralling you as much as chess has been enthralling me?
I don't know that anything is, and I'm sad for it. But I have gotten into Returnal on PS5 recently, which I've been enjoying. I'm still not good at it because shooters are not my forte. But this one is way more about like movement and positioning and like dodging first, shooting second. So at least Bloodborne has prepared me for that. Still bashing my head up against the first boss. I kind of have an idea of what the game wants of me, more or less. no idea where the story's gonna go, because like the thing that it reveals to you in the first 10 minutes of the game is what I expected like the first act to be about. So no clue where it's going. Very interested to see. So yeah, I've been having a really good time with that. Both MJ and Justin were like, Returnal, play Returnal now. Okay, Returnal. So here we are.
It's one of the best, like, it looks so good and so fun, and I've heard nothing about it. Like, I have not seen reviews and articles and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, so...
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of buzz going on. Like, if I hadn't had two people that I know just, like, vehemently request it to me, and, you know, I kind of just generally trust their taste, it probably would not have even crossed my radar. But I'm glad it did, because I'm having a really good time with it. So... it came out like 6 months ago, I think. I'm slow. I'm almost never an early adopter nowadays. I'm an old man.
I mean, I don't even have a PS5 yet, so if you're slow, then good God. There's no hope for me.
Anyway, I'll have more to say about that game as I actually figure out what the fuck's going on. So, guys, I think that is gonna wrap it up for episode 119 of Mythos Busters. If you've made it this far, we probably should have said this at the beginning, but you've got a few more days yet, possibly to submit your memes. It's probably going to be too late by the time this releases, so feel free to try a late submission if you need to, but pay attention to our social medias, because we are going to announce when our stream is that we will be going through the memes, and I very much look forward to that. It's going to be a good time.
It's December 10th.
Yep.
Is the limit, yeah.
So maybe like a day or two.
Yeah.
Assuming very
we should get this out before
how quickly
December
we're going to
10th.
edit.
Yeah, we should get this. Well, then again, this is our longest episode ever now, so who knows?
All right. Well, on that
Just
note,
like the longest chess game ever.
23 hours, one of which was exciting. All right. Let's wrap this sucker up. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys for 120 next time.